final stages of the plan to look like as the work evolves. Sometimes in the 21st century, we have found that having the end point for a study like this or a plan like this is premature, because if we put an anchor right now in, we want the plan to look like this, feel like this, sound like this, but then the data we gather is taking us in a different direction, that potentially sets us up for there not being clean alignment. So as the work evolves, the board will also have an opportunity to help us determine what those final stages would look like and what the plan in itself would also look like as it's represented back out to the community. Thank you. That's my part of the discussion. Does anybody have any questions, or was there anything, Marty, that I could have been more clear about?
No, I think so once again, the purpose of the remaining time tonight is to discuss as a board the process, the entire process as a whole, your thoughts, where we need to dial it up or maybe dial it back, and your thoughts around the whole process. And then the second item would be, okay, when we get to the inclusive survey, what are some specific questions that you as board members would like to see in that community survey? So that's what we do with the remainder of the time.
I have one question just to start. The survey itself, are they like simple one-word answers, or are they going to be, are we going to be interpreting some writing?
So that is also up for board consideration, and so that's why we also talked about considerations for the board. I would say that in a good survey, we would want to have a mix of different kinds of responses, and that we would want to potentially, but this of course would be determined by your input about the questions. There's some demographic data you want to collect. How many children are in your household? Is anybody currently enrolled in the Port Angeles School District, right? Those kinds of questions, whether just yes or no's. Then there are maybe some other multiple choice type questions or a rating scale. You know, if you have a scale from 0 to 100, please give us a quantifiable number of blah, 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 right? So that's another opportunity. It's one of the things we found. If surveys are all narrative comment boxes, people don't fill them out. Nobody has time to do that right now. So the idea is that on our end, you know, with the direction of the board and then the work that I would be doing for you, we would make the survey not only easy, but kind of fun, because it would have multiple opportunities for people to do multiple things, again, in the digital version. The paper version, of course, or doing it in an interview with somebody who may speak another language and isn't comfortable with English, we would make sure that we were taking those things into consideration. But to answer your question, we would want to keep narrative to things like this. And again, I'm just riffing off this, and your input is important. But let's say we were to ask people to quantify how much trust do you have in the Port Angeles School District right now on a scale of 1 to 100. There would be a narrative question after that that would say, anything you want us to know about that rating? And then some people are going to write hardly anything. Some people might write a dissertation, but we're letting them make that choice. But by not being judgmental in the questions and really inviting what you think and keeping it anonymous, we turn off all individual trackers so people would know that there was no way to go back and check who they were. That's what I would see right now. Did I answer your question?
You did.
Okay.
I guess I have a question. I was reading a report today or a story today that a majority of parents are against social emotional learning in public schools. How are we prepared, how are we prepared to construct questions? Well, we know that social emotional learning is absolutely vital. How do we then, let's say our report shows that 65% of the people who responded think social emotional learning should not be in the public schools. How are we prepared to either write a question that doesn't allow that narrative to pop up, or deal with that narrative and say, we hear you, but you're wrong. Or we hear you, and we're gonna now not do social emotional learning in our school district.
So here, and again, this is, I'm just responding here, you all would get input. I would write the question to make it clear that school boards have no discretion. It is state law that social emotional learning, it's one of the standards now that is required for teachers every other year. Every teacher in the state is required to undergo 7.5 hours of social emotional training. This is not going away. So what I would say is the question should be phrased, you know, it is now state law, we could put in the RCW if we need to, you know, that social emotional learning be a part of every child's education. You know, on a scale of 1 to 100, how comfortable are you with that? Anything you want to tell us about that rating? So we would not give people the option of believing that they have discretion because the school board does not have discretion. Or at least that's my response. You fact check me on that, Marty, but I would say we don't let them believe there's discretion where none exists.
Agree 100%.
I was thinking about a question, kind of getting at the same idea, not necessarily the discretion of the, you know, that we're gonna teach it or not, but I wanna know, you know, what is, you know, where does the community or the parents or whatever, you know, whomever, want the school to go in the next, you know, 5 years? So I want that future, and like, you know, and that involves like ranking some of the, you know, is it basic education, is it career training, is it, you know, is it social emotional learning, is it, you know, is it athletics, you know, what, you know, I don't know, there's a you know, wide range of things that could go in to ranking where the future should go, you know.
So it might be, and this would be a place where I would think it would be very, very important for the board that if you all outline, and I'm sort of making this up right now, right? If you outlined your 10 priorities, right, 10 priorities, right, as of right now, then you could say, rank your top 3 out of these 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then everybody, then you would be able to say, 78% of the people who responded to the survey, you know, rank this as, you know, the #1 priority, right? So that's a data point moving forward. So there would be a way to, because then you're not beholden to any of that. You're just asking people if you had the choice to prioritize, what would these things be? So that would be one way to do it. The other thing I think that, and per your equity policy, we also have to be careful about when we do things about social emotional education, is we need to understand that, for example, tribal children, there may be a different priority that the tribe has about what social emotional learning looks like for tribal children than another stakeholder group might have. Like, for example, some of your faith-based organizations might also have some other kinds of ideas that they want the school board to be aware of when it comes to social emotional learning. So again, instead of saying, like, do you want social emotional learning or not, the question could be more like, what would you like to see us include in social emotional learning, right? So it's an asset-based positive piece. So that might be another way to be able to ask some of those questions and then frame things in terms of asset-based positive pieces rather than framing things in terms of what do you like the least about social emotional learning. I also feel like one of the other places that it's an important educational opportunity. We actually have a really amazing educational opportunity here. Would be, for example, to embed some of the questions around social emotional learning around the high school and beyond planning process, which is also required by law. Beginning at 7th grade at the earliest, there are some districts that move it back to 6th grade or into elementary school, but the fact of the matter is, to get a student, and it's right in your equity policy, I'm pointing up here as if that's still up here, but it said ready for career college life, and that's what that high school and beyond process is all about. So there would be ways to also embed questions about social emotional learning, not as a standalone, but as an important part of getting each and every one of our children ready to have a successful life after high school. So I think sometimes those are other things that the board might consider in terms of how they like questions phrased, and we could be very responsive to that. Please.
One of the things that I want to be sure we get off this survey is what the community sees as our assets. I want to know what they see as our strengths. that's, to me, that's the most important thing that this data collection's gonna say to me personally.
Thank you.
Where do they see well, we know what we think our assets are, but I wanna know what they think that our assets are.
Thank you. And those are also the kinds of questions that the board would have the opportunity, based on the data from the survey, to then say, whoa, now when you go back to the focus groups, dig in on that question about our assets so we can have a conversation with each of these focus groups. So the board might identify some questions that you know right at the outset are going to be important for the focus groups, as well as having the opportunity to have some of those questions for the focus groups evolve once the survey is in. But I think your point right there, that would be very, very doable.
One other thing I think that always kind of is back here. There are a lot of, I come from Louisiana, and it's a very poor state, and the educational levels are very low, and the literacy levels are extremely low for adults. You mentioned talking about the survey being in a different language, or I just want to be really sure that whatever we show to someone on a screen or piece of paper, that they can read it.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That we very carefully choose our language in that we don't use terminology, because a lot of times educators, and I'm a psychologist, psychologists are the world's worst about speaking in a language that no one else understands. But educators do that too. I mean, I know that we can be guilty of that. So I want to be really, really sure that this is an easy to read, easy to answer.
A lot of those survey
document.
tools actually have like they have a readability score that they'll put on the questions, right?
And if we use the basic journalistic standard, which is that you're pitching to basically a 7th grade reading level, right? That if we think along those lines, but we would want to have some kind of an opportunity that if we did have a family that wasn't literate and felt comfortable enough to let us know that there would be a way to have some human sit with them and fill out the form for them. So reading level would not be a barrier, but we would make sure that the questions also would not be barriers themselves. Thank you for bringing that up.
I guess the process is still a little, I have questions in my mind about it, so, and they're both on the planning putting the plan together, but also post, so, starting with like the planning, the process itself, I see a lot of time dedicated to data, analysis, and I didn't see a point on there but having listened to you talk about how you approach that, I see why it's not actually listed as a single item, because it's a constant movement of, redirecting based on what you've learned, or moving forward based on what you learned. So that's good. The other thing is the inclusive survey to the community. Is that, how do you see that getting sent out? I mean, it's not just emails. Are those like postcards in the mail? Are they, what are we, what's your vision there?
So again, I would want to work within the culture of your school district. When we did large-scale surveying of the community when I was the assistant superintendent in SQUIM, we made sure that we had the survey available to people in a number of different forms. So there would be, and what we did was we created the community survey so that there was a link for each building. So, which is, I'm not saying is the way you would need to do it, but that provided then the perceptual and needs data through a building lens, and then each building lens could be aggregated for the district lens, which then would provide buildings with data that they could use and be actionable about that would be aligned with the strategic planning process. So digitally, those links can be put on the district website. They could be, I don't know if you use Skyward to do push messages to families. The bottom line would be there would be like 8 or 10 different ways the information would be potentially pushed out to people.
Okay, so, you know, that's for parents and, you know,
Absolutely.
families, but I'm talking community-wide.
Oh, and I'm talking community-wise as well. So we have the opportunity to do a number of different things, but that would depend partly on the board of directors and how you feel about it. People could consistently be directed back to the district's website because it is the district's survey. And there could be links that are posted on a district website, and then those links are then for the digital part of the survey. Those links can then be sent through the communication system to people. We could also make use of community partners, that there would be flyers and other pieces that could go, for example, let's say the Senior Citizen Center downtown. We could make sure that we interface with somebody at the Senior Citizen Center and that they know how to go to the website, or they know where they can pick up paper surveys and where those paper surveys can get completed and then turned back in. So I can't give you any more specific information because I need to know more information about what your communication channels already are, but we want to make use of the relationships that you all were building when you were doing the equity policy as well as your other work, and then make sure that we were enhancing those so that we were literally making it difficult for people not to know about the survey.
And I think a big part of the communication side of this work, it won't fall on Anne and her work, it'll fall on the district and using, you know, the channels that Carmen currently has, and then some to help support this work to, you know, get out into every nook and cranny of our community. Which would be greater than what we typically do, you know, because we would have to reach out and make, you know, for the senior center or the tribe or PABA, we'd need to make specific connections to, you know, get their support to help us promote a survey of this nature. We have our normal channels, but there's going to be some abnormal channels through this process as well, and we're going to have to lean on Carmen's expertise to help with that.
Okay, so it's more about us when it comes to the distribution of the survey and
Yeah.
getting the methods to get
Yeah.
the result, you know.
I think what we have Anne for is to help facilitate the process, but we are going to use systems within our existing infrastructure to help support that work.
So Ann, you'll be working to develop the survey and data, looking at the data, you will do data analysis?
Well, and I will do data analysis, but the other piece that I wanted to offer is that you will be getting a batch of data that will be transparent and easy to read, because data is also not good if it's so technical that people can't interact with it.
Yeah.
It would be in a very easy to read format that will give you data to be able to talk about for the next couple of years as well. That would also be data that your buildings, so it's sort of like getting a twofer. In this day of actionable data, would also give buildings the opportunity to use this data in their school improvement plans. For the buildings that you have that are in improvement status, they would be able to use it for their mid-year reviews that they have to do for OSPI. There would be the opportunity to use this data with private foundations. If the district is looking to third-party partners to be able to increase, let's say, resources for social emotional learning. This current data being collected under the board as a part of the strategic planning process will have multiple ripple benefits. So I would be doing an initial data analysis, absolutely, but y'all will have so much data that you will be also able to do continuing analysis moving forward.
Okay.
So from us, we're going forward, you're going to write the survey?
Yes, well, I will draft a survey, work with Marty,
Okay.
and draft some things that then will, Marty, you fact check me here, but then we would push a draft out to y'all, and then y'all would be able to say, well, how come we're not asking about this? Or, oh, I was hoping to see something about this. Or this is, as a director, here's the one question I have always had that I want to be able to have that answer. And I'm a big brain science person, for those of you that don't know me. Believe me, when y'all are driving home tonight, I lived in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia for years, so excuse, that's where my y'all comes from.
Okay.
You're going to think of things that you want to ask or things that you might have wanted to ask me when you're driving home tonight, because that's how brains work. We'll also be working with this survey very much to channel what we know about cognitive science and how we can help people also grow and evolve their ideas as they move through this process with you. So rather than this being a process that's being sort of pushed onto people, it's an embracive process where we're all moving along together. It's a different kind of a feel to it, and I would tell you that sometimes the feeling of this being different is that this has a base in anthropology as opposed to statistics. So there's a lot of human relationships, recognition of different cultural groups, difference of individual perspectives, and that idea that we want people to feel like they have a relationship with the district as they're giving the district this information, and that there'll be a positive outcome for everybody as a result.
I want to summarize how I think that should go down. So based on conversation tonight, hearing some questions that you would like to see included in this survey, that gives us a place to start. And so between Anne and I and probably Michelle Wilson, we can work together to create what we've heard tonight in a survey format. Then our next meeting is scheduled for March 10th. I would like to bring back a draft of that survey, provided it meets Anne's timeline. I think we need to get on this because time is of the essence at this point in time. But on the March 10th meeting, we can bring back as a discussion action item on that evening to get more feedback. Dial this up, dial this back. I like this. I don't like this. Give me very prescriptive, direct feedback that evening, to then finalize what we would then take out to the public and begin the promotion cycle around the survey. Because it's going to go fast. I mean, we want to have a strategic plan for September 1 of 2022, and I think that's doable. But I don't want to spend, and one of my concerns up front was I don't want to spend 4 to 6 weeks on a survey. I want to get to the meat of the work. I want to get a survey that you all, and I don't say y'all, but you all.
It'd be all y'all
Well,
anyway.
all y'all, right.
All of you all are, approve of, and then let's go. That's an important part of what we're about to do. So
Okay.
if that cycle, and Ann and I did not talk about this prior to, but if that timeline works, and that gives us 2 weeks between now and the next meeting to take your feedback, devise what we think we've heard, bring it to you for approval or lack thereof on the March 10th meeting, make some final tweaks and edits, and then move to the next the implementation phase.
That's good, because I was starting to worry that we were supposed to come up with the questions, and I'm sorry, a good survey is not written by me.
We should be coming up with a lot of the topics though, right?
I mean, I can do broad topics,
Yeah.
but I'm not writing a statistically significant or accurate.
Yeah, but you know what we need?
What do we need?
You know what
I
we-
kind of know.
You know what we need, yeah, so we can get questions around that too, so the community knows.
I don't know. What are we talking about? I don't know what we need. You're saying you know what we need.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we know that we need certain things, right? We know that we need.
I'm
Yeah.
fun-
sorry. Gotcha, I'm with you now.
For
I'm
the
sorry.
district, we know we have needs, like you guys
Yes.
know where our
Yes.
strengths are and where our weaknesses are, so like we gotta, these questions should be around that and find out what the community thinks as well, right?
Yes, yes. Okay.
We need people to be nice.
What's that?
We just
You
need people to
count
be
on people to
nice.
be nice?
That's all. I just want everyone to be nice. I don't know how to write a question around that, but it's just all I want.
It should be really short, like 5-minute survey, right? If they're not filling in long answers, then, you know, it's a boom, 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 done, right?
And that's where having this sort of cascading layers of process, then if we have a shorter survey that's basically quick and easy for people, 100% of the households in the district have the opportunity to participate. The depth can be in the focus group pieces, with even more depth in interviews, if you all like the idea about designated interviews. So very easily we could make sure that the survey takes no more than 10 minutes of somebody's time.
So tonight, I think I've heard, and Jenny can correct me, and she's taking notes, but I heard, to collect information on social emotional learning and do that in an asset-based framework. We want to have some form of feedback around the current existing programs and what are we doing well. That was, I think, your question, or I'm sorry.
It was my question.
I'm sorry, thank you.
But I bet Katie wants to know it too.
And what am I missing, Katie? What was the specifics that you wanted?
Well, I was going after, you know, ranking, you know,
Ranking programs that,
yeah.
what programs or offerings?
Yeah, offering some, yeah, it might be intertwined with how you summed up Sandy's question, but it was more about ranking themes as to what's most important going future. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yes.
This is more about what we're doing well today.
Mhm.
What do we want to do well in the future?
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay. Other things that are just must-haves for this board, and again, I think Ann has hit the nail on the head. If you go home and think tonight and into tomorrow and you want to send me an email around, hey, this is something I really need after giving it some thought, it's really not fair to throw this on you tonight, but give it some thought. But keep one thing in perspective for me. Ann has referenced narrative will be a deal breaker for some. They look at it, and if I got to write all this stuff, there would be some that are completely check out, so we want to keep it easy. The other side of it, and I think Katie hit this, is the length. I mean, if we make this a 30-minute survey, that will remove folks from wanting to participate. So,
Revise your survey immediately.
so think very clear and concise on what do you want to know, with all of the other battery of typical questions, demographical information. Do you have kids in school, et cetera. But very strategic around what you want to ask and why, because I just don't want to get to where we have 20 narrative questions.
I definitely want to know around communication, why the narrative seems to have taken hold, that there's a lack of communication from the district. I want to know, in what ways do people want to get, I always joke, like, some people I feel like we've sent emails, and, there's Skyward, and there's phone calls, and I feel like at some point I'm just going to have to go to every door and be like, hello, yes, your child is not, your child's having trouble. What more can we do? So something around communication, I would love to know that.
I think it's a good opportunity to use these questions to shine the light on topics that we want discussed in the community as well. Like, it seems like a good opportunity to ask people what they think about our facilities, right? I think we should ask them, maybe on a scale of 1 to 100, how are our facilities, how are our football fields, how are, because we're trying to reach out beyond. You said it's a good idea to reach out beyond just the people who have kids in the school, right? So just people in the community. So, just talking about programs and stuff doesn't quite reach everyone. But if we start asking questions that would include the people who aren't really involved in our school districts, those are also the people who vote for our bonds and levies. So I think it'd be good to find a couple that at least reach out to them.
And again, the last thing that I would think that a school board would ever want is unveiling a strategic plan and having people in the community say, you didn't look for any input from taxpayers, right. So that's why the point of starting with the inclusive survey is that we get to say every household had the opportunity and it was your choice not to participate. We made sure we did everything we could to include everybody, right? So nobody can say I wasn't asked, nobody cared what I thought. just gives us an opportunity to bottle up that excuse and just move forward.
Translation, is there one particular language that we would focus on for translation? Or, I mean, some districts, Tri-Cities, it's pretty obvious they're going to do Spanish, but, are we gonna do we have one particular language?
How many languages are represented in the school district? Is that what you're going after?
Yeah, I'm a little stuck on the translation because I think that that's really important. And so,
It is, and what we could do is we could use your current transitional bilingual instructional program data and see what languages are actually officially registered with the state as being spoken in this community in terms of service to children and families, because there's a legal obligation for the district to be able to be responsive to the languages in its community. And I would think, outside of trying to do another survey about what languages do you speak, if we go right to the data the district is already collecting and using through the Transitional Bilingual Instructional Program, we would be able to use that opportunity. And your website currently also has a translation feature. So it also is another way that we could use if there were smaller micro languages, like let's say we have, I'm just making this up because I don't know your data. Let's say we have a Vietnamese family and we're making the effort to make sure that it's translated for major languages, but it's one Vietnamese family. We'd still have the opportunity to use the translation feature on your website and to be able to show people how to be able to translate the survey through the translator on your website, which has worked well in other districts as well.
okay, thank you.
So
Any
can I
other-
Oh, sorry.
Marty, go ahead.
So if I could get some agreement that, you would, take this opportunity to think this evening into tomorrow, and if you have, anything beyond what we've already discussed tonight, because we've kind of captured the discussions tonight, anything beyond that, if you could share that with me, by 8 a.m. Monday morning, is that an agreeable timeline? So that, I can get started on this next week and get something in draft form?
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
I just want to be clear where we're at now. So we have, there's at least 3 steps in this process. Step 1 being the inclusive survey, step 2 being focus groups. Actually, there's 4 steps. Another step, around individual interviews, and then that process on how do you take all this data now, to create then a workable strategic plan. That's really left to be defined, and I think that's a really wise choice for the board at this point in time, because we don't know what stages 1, 2, and 3 will bring us. And I'm a firm believer that if you start navigating through that process, the end will be well defined for us on what is the logical next step to be able to put all this together. So if the board's comfortable with that, we at least have 3 fairly defined steps prior to that. That would be my recommendation to the board, and we have time to address that.
Good with it. It's just a matter of getting that survey out at this point. So,
And is the board okay with a draft being brought back on the March 10th date?
That's good.
With the
Yep.
intent of, making any edits that evening in a open public meeting, to make the necessary edits and make it final by the time we leave that meeting.
Are we talking about like a 6:30 meeting or 6
No,
o'clock?
I plan on putting it on the regular agenda.
Oh, okay.
It is a discussion action item on the March
Okay.
10th meeting.
Okay.
Alright. Sounds good. Can we look at it before that night?
Oh yeah, you'll get it like you do Friday before the meeting.
Okay,
Mhm.
good.
That's why it's so important that Monday by 8 o'clock, if you send me any other considerations you need, because time is of the essence. I've got to have the board agenda ready by that Friday. So it seems like we have 2 weeks, but really we have a week.
Okay, we good to go?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give us a 5-minute break before the meeting starts.
And thank you very much for coming out this evening.
Thank you so much for your time and the
Pleasure to
invitation.
work with
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everybody.
Pleasure to work with you. And
We're
so
looking
thank you.
forward.
We do have, we need to take, do we have time, Carmen?
Yeah,
We need to take pictures for our, board,
Thanks for waiting.
so
We
if,
didn't.
if we could take your break,
We'll
and then
take our-
we need to get together for a quick photo op,
Okay.
if you would.
Where do you want us?
Carmen,
In the hallway downstairs, that's okay.
stairwell.
In the stairwell.
We like to look up rather than down.
Hey, Sandy, I want to hear which there's
I didn't get the memo that we were doing pictures today. Did you get that memo?
It won't, we're gonna be far away. It's not gonna be out face to face.
Okay, I already did my big picture.
Yeah, because we were all looking for it last.
Yes, I wasn't prepared.
So today we just, you know,
the way it rolls, right?
And that you need to be there, you should not take a picture, you should make sure you can use it. This is pretty.
Very nice.
Oh, I'm planning on it.
Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
You guys keep losing each other.
the new pens light up.
Light up?
It's pretty exciting.
You're gonna have to teach us how to do that.
Hang on.
Hey Luke, did you get to travel recently with the team?
Oh, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We went
To where?
to Oak Harbor.
Oh, okay.
You didn't go with the rifle
You
team.
didn't go to the.
Oh, no.
Push this.
How'd you do in Oak Harbor?
Oh, Sonny, you're gonna be showing off with them nails. Look at that. And the purple hair. You're looking fancy tonight. Thank
They're
you.
kind of our competition, right?
Dang.
Yeah, Oak Harbor for a lot of the big ones, and then Everett for college parties.
Cool. Good, you guys have been represented.
Push in the stylus, Luke. This old push. Oh, until
Time, huh? Oh, yeah, absolutely. What are we doing over here?
I need to go listen to you.
The Thursday, February 24th, 2022 meeting of the Port Angeles School District Board of Directors will come to order. We've just come out of work session, a strategic planning work session. We want to welcome everybody tonight. And Carmen, I'm going to let you give our introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. Hello and good evening. My name is Carmen Dyer, and I would like to welcome you to the February 24th, 2022 Board of Directors Board Meeting. This meeting is being presented in person and live streamed via YouTube. Please note that this meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting Board Docs through our district's website. There will also be a portion of the meeting reserved for community comments. Agenda items will be addressed as listed in the agenda. For in-person community comments, please use the sign-up sheet located in the hallway to share your comments. When it is your turn to speak, your name will be called. Before making your comments, please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you are viewing the meeting via YouTube and have submitted comments before the meeting, they will be read during the community comments time. In the future, if you have comments that you would like to share with the Board of Directors, please email Jenny Wilson. She's the Executive Assistant to the Superintendent. You can reach her at jwilson@portangelschools.org by 5 p.m. the night of the board meeting. If you have concerns about individual district employees or specific complaints that require an administrative response, please contact the Office of the Superintendent directly. According to Washington Department of Health Order 20-03, face masks are required for everyone over 5 years of age while indoors. Thank you, and back to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Carmen. Everyone is here tonight, including our student representative. So if you will join us for our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Luke, will you read our acknowledgement of tribal lands, please?
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved territory rights to this land, specifically the Clallam tribes. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you, Luke. It's time to look at the agenda. Everybody feel okay with the agenda tonight?
Yes.
All okay with that? Okay, then I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Thank you. Jenny, do we have any correspondence?
No, we don't.
Okay. Well, that quickly brings us to a very wonderful part of our meeting, which is the recognition of our National Board Certified Teacher in our district. And Marty, if you'd like to,
Hey, you wanna come up with me?
yeah, I do.
Molly?
So So, I am not speaking through experience, but I've heard that, going through the board, or the national boards, thank you. The national board certification is a very detailed and thorough process. And Molly, you've not only done that once, but you've done that, how many, is it twice?
Yeah.
That is really, really impressive. And we, as the representatives of the school district and the board, and on behalf of all employees of our district, thank you for your commitment. That is quite a commitment that, you care so much about the work that you do and passion for the work that you do, that you're willing to go through such an excruciating process that make you even a better teacher. And so the real benefit of that work are your students and your families. And so from my perspective to you, thank you very much for your commitment to excellence in education, and it's much appreciated.
And I want to thank you too, as a former teacher. I know that I talk loud. I know what it takes to do that. I've watched many teachers go through that, and to do it twice, I don't even know how to do that. But congratulations and thanks for your time and effort. And we have a little something we want to give you.
Thank you.
If you will wait and let me go get it.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh.
This is just a tiny remembrance of congratulations for you.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to speak to the board and let them know a little bit about what you've done, not everybody knows.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing. Right up here. Thank you. It definitely is a challenging process, and doing it during times of the pandemic made it very interesting. But I noticed that lots of things we had in place through our district and school, our technology in service and our student engagement were some of the same topics I was studying. So it lined up really, really well. And the reflection time I got to look at how are we addressing student needs in these trying times was very valuable. So I felt like I benefited from it very greatly. I appreciated the recognition and the time just to study all those important topics. So thank you for recognizing me tonight.
Oh, my husband is not there.
You want to come up? Sure. Be awesome.
He's gonna be so happy you drove in. Do I have to come? Okay, I'm sorry. I left you early. I know, I'm looking back here. Okay.
There you go. Right there, Cindy.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Good. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Molly.
What a gift for our school system to have teachers engaged with those kinds of efforts.
I found them.
Okay. Now, we're going to have my next favorite part is we're going to have a presentation tonight by Julie Bryant, who is principal of Dry Creek. And I see lots of Dry Creek folks here. Thank you all for coming out. So, Julie, you want to talk about our students of the month?
Yes.
And then give us a nice, good report on Dry Creek.
Of course. So this is my first time doing this, and do the kids?
You gotta use the mic, please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What, my principal voice isn't good enough?
No. It's hard to hear on the YouTube.
So I would like to invite Sawyer Davis to come up, and for Sarah Butterworth. Thank you. So these are our students of the year, and they are amazing 6th grade students. I wanted to read from their teachers. They had beautiful words to say.
And so first, I'm going to read for Sawyer. His teacher is Karen Doran, who could not be here tonight, unfortunately. And just a side note, Sarah and his mom had to miss a day of skiing to come to this. So they had a big vacation planned, but they're going tomorrow. So, so we appreciate that. So Sawyer, your teacher who is here tonight, said that you are an outstanding individual. Stuff always makes me choke up. So that you apply yourself in all areas, that you actively encourage your classmates to make good choices, you offer help to those around you. Sawyer goes above and beyond to assist teachers and staff when needed and often thinks of solutions that are outside the box. He applies himself every day at school. And he understands how to use feedback that is given to him to make changes and adjust as needed. And Angela Sickles says that he is witty, thoughtful, and kind. And I have to agree with that. Sawyer is always, he's a teacher's kid. So he has learned and just grown up in schools. And he is, since he was in kindergarten, been getting the lunches or the breakfasts and bringing them to the classroom, he and his brother. And some other things about Sawyer is he is an amazing athlete, is a star basketball player, a star soccer player. He is now he's a Boy Scout. And if you haven't seen the price of that popcorn. And Sawyer is just one of those kids that is smiling in the halls, helpful. When I first got here, I was, you always want to try to figure out what everything is, and we were trying to figure out how to do lunch and breakfast, and everyone was like, oh, no, Sawyer delivers the breakfast. Because I had this whole plan, like, no, Sawyer. So I want to thank you, Sawyer, for being such a wonderful student and a role model for so many, and just being very gracious and kind, like your mom. And this is Sarah. Sarah is also a sixth grader, of course, and her teacher could not be here tonight. I think I said that at the beginning, but she wrote some beautiful words as well. So this is from Karen. Sarah, normality is a paved road and no flowers grow there. This is a quote, and it's from Van Gogh, and it reminds me being Karen, it reminds me of Sarah and her uniqueness and her creativity. Sarah puts her heart into everything she does. Her passion and joy for learning make her an outstanding student. Sarah, you are a flower that is beginning to bloom. Your creativeness and uniqueness make you special. They make you who you are. Never let go of who you are. Stay off the beaten path. Grow, grow, grow into that flower that you were designed to be. So that was from Mrs. Doran. And Sarah is, every time I go into their classroom, if there's a leader, it is definitely Sarah. So one thing about Karen Doran's classroom is it's very democratic. The kids get to have a real say in choices and the learning and everything that they're doing. And every time I go in there, Sarah is a leader in that. She has a very strong voice and a very well-formed opinion about things. And yeah, we're just excited that you have been at Dry Creek for a couple years now. And so thank you for being so wonderful. Thank you.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to give you this certificate.
Thank you.
Recognizing the good work you've done, Sarah. This is for you. And congratulations, you've done a beautiful job. I know your parents are proud of you, and your teachers, and all of your school.
Yes.
So thank you for coming tonight. And Julie, I'm going to give you a chance now to talk about your home school.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna-
Thank you.
to get the board, the student reps, the two students and their families, and their teachers, if they're here tonight, we want to take a quick picture.
Okay.
Yep. To the stairwell.
Oh, we can talk about that stairway.
Yeah. It seems like it's about, what, maybe 1,200 more than it was last year?
Oh, is that how much it is? 1,200?
It's 58, what did it say, 58.6 or something? Yeah. I don't know, it's a lot. Yeah. It seems like a lot. I don't know how much they even said.
Did you learn anything?
I did.
Okay, that's good.
At the end, I wasn't sure I had because I was so
Exhausted?
Yes.
I understand.
Yeah. Always, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
At least I've done it just one more year, so.
All right.
No.
No. So now Julie is gonna tell us about Dry Creek Elementary.
Thank you. And I can't go forward without recognizing that many of my staff are here tonight to support us. And so thank you. Thank you all for being here. So we had, when as I've talked before, I came to Dry Creek with just really 3 goals and 3 focuses, and especially after talking to the community, talking to the staff, and having communication with many stakeholders, that really one of our priorities was improving school climate and culture, so really focusing on SEL as we are in the district as well. We took on, and thank you to Brittany Martin, who is here tonight as well, we took on a big task with really rethinking and refocusing our behavior. So we took it beyond PBIS even. We kind of took a step forward looking at how behavior fits into that MTSS process. And so we've all been, many of us have been studying the book by Chris Webber called Behavior RTI. And it really just helps you fit behavior into the whole picture of your school. And then of course we are always focusing on community partnerships, both parents and community members. And so those are really our 3 focuses this year, of course, and then I'll talk a little bit as we move on about our some of our academic work. So we know that the climate and culture of a school really consists of many influences. So we look at attitudes, we look at the norms, traditions, beliefs. And my goal in working with our staff is that we knew that these things and the people that are part of these pieces really make up the school culture. And so those were tasks that we took on as a community and as a staff. And we know that this happens when there is open and honest communication, when we trust each other, and when we build that trust, so that we know that as members of this community of Dry Creek Elementary and of Port Angeles School District, that we had this big task for us. And I'm here to say, and I have a picture next, but that we're doing that. We're moving forward with it, and it's been, I think, really positive. And as our shirts say, we've been making waves this year, and it feels good. And we know that change takes time. So some of the things that have we've been able to really build on this year is changing some of the culture of the staff, and that we are, again, building trust with each other. Because as you know, there's been some turnover in administration, and we know from research, from experiences, that that is a driver in any school. And so we know we had a mountain to climb and waves to surf, and we're doing that. So some of the things that we took on, of course, Character Strong is something we're using in our building, as is everyone. These are the teachers, these is the staff that is supporting that. They're the ones that are working, building it into their lessons, building it into every part of their classroom. And it's been impressive. The kids know the language, the teachers use it. We talk about, this was Kindness Month, we talked about that a lot. The other piece that we are using, and I don't know if other schools use this, but we're using Second Step. It was purchased in whole last spring, and the counselor that we hired, Counselor Leary, she does it once a week in every classroom. So it supports what's happening with Character Strong. And then, of course, the word of the decade, I feel, is bullying. And so we thought it was important to add on the anti-bullying program from Second Step. And again, that's been very successful. We communicated with our families. And as we know, that's part of school climate and culture, is making sure that your families are part of what you're doing. Another big, exciting project we are working on, and this is with Carmen Watson-Charles here, who's one of our community partners. Her and our counselor are really working together to, Carmen had been part of a project previously that called the Healing Canoe, correct? Yes. And so she's been bringing that into the school and working. We started with the 5th grade, and as Carmen's time frees up, we're hoping to add some other grades, but it's been a beautiful project. We bring the kids in, they talk about how we just respect. That's been a big issue, is talking about respect. And she's supported by, of course, Counselor Leary and the classroom teachers, and so that's been wonderful. Another big project Carmen and I are still working on, and hoping it happens at least for next year, is we're working on bringing in, with our tribal partners, bringing in at least a part-time, if not a full-time, mental health therapist from the tribe. And that, we thought we were making good progress, and then they had some turnover in staff themselves, and so we're not giving up. We're really pushing forward. It's a model I've used before in my previous school, and it's just super successful, and it's safe, and it gives kids access that wouldn't have had access before. So, thank you, Carmen. Other things that I've kind of already talked a little bit about is that we are talking about, again, clear and open staff communication. So, and that's something that is never perfect. It's always something we're working on continually. And, I just can't say enough about when you say those kind of words, like, oh, open and honest communication, that's just how you do it. That's hard sometimes. And it's hard because we're building trust still as a community, and we're building trust as a staff. So we continue to work on that. And then another piece I think is really big, and I'm able to be more visible and available in the building. And I honor that I have a dean of students, Brittany Martin, and I also have a behavior support specialist in our building that are able to really pick up those pieces that I'm not always able to, so that I'm able to be in classrooms or in the hallways or creating a PowerPoint. And again, we're doing a lot of work around how we communicate in meetings to each other, right? So that we, in meetings, in the hallway, in our classrooms, and that we, again, building trust, honoring each other, honoring where we are, and also just having some fun in school for staff too. Because, you know, this has been, I think, I don't know if February has been a particularly kind of heavy month. And so we did a lot of fun things in February. And I do have to say, the middle picture here, this is, actually all three of those teachers are here. That's Jessica Smith and Ann Mitchell and Casey Shea. And Ann and a team of other really amazing staff members got together and created the Golden Bell Awards. And it's really for people that exemplify what our character strong traits are. So resilience, really respect, kindness, and so they give these Golden Bell Awards that came from Ann's mom. And it's been beautiful for our staff. It's just easy, and it's something tangible and fun, and you know, we work on a lot of things and on our staff just really coming together to build that community and communication. So I want to talk about behavior RTI, and really this is this summer when I arrived, the first person in my office was Brittany. And she had this book that they had read, they had started reading the year before, the administrative staff, this behavior RTI book. And it really, when I delve into it, it was a game changer for me. It really had me looking at behavior in a completely different way. You know, it's a tiered behavior system. We look at those core standard behaviors that we want all students and all staff to engage in. And then you teach those, right? We have to teach those behaviors. And so then we look at the tier 2 behaviors, and then of course then there are tier 3 behaviors, just like in literacy or math instruction, where you need that different tier of support. We're very excited. Brittany has gotten, we're in the works for a trainer from Solution Tree to come to our building, and we've invited Roosevelt as well to come because they're using this book as well. And we're just really excited about the possibilities of the depth of this behavior work. The other book that we have used is Lost and Found by Ross Greene, and if any of you have read any of his work, which I'm sure many of you have, he just really talks a lot about getting to the bottom of the behaviors, right, and supporting kids where they're at with behaviors, and not, you know, not looking at it as a deficit or unfixable, but really what are the gaps, what are the holes? He uses the word lagging behaviors. And so we're working within those two systems. We created a behavior core team that meets every other week, and that team is delving into both of these books, really. We kind of put Lost and Found aside because we felt like we needed to bring back behavior RTI and get deeper into that to then get to the kind of lagging behavior piece. So we know, and this is, you know, we say this in education a lot. We say the word systems, but we know, and we've seen this. We've really kind of, even in the last month, took a step back from what we were doing and really looked at this. We have a behavior team, and we have this behavior core team. So our behavior team consists of Brittany, myself, our counselor, and our newly hired behavior support specialist. And then our behavior core team includes some classroom teachers, support staff, and Brittany and the behavior support specialists. And so between these two teams, we're really starting to feel finally, I think just really recently, that maybe we're getting on the other side of it and we're not just reacting, right? Reacting. So, and that none of that is possible without this team here and the work that they're doing in the classroom to support students and making sure that they feel loved and respected and that they are building relationships with students. So none of this is possible without them. I just had a little bit more about the behavior teams, 2 different behavior teams. The picture is our lead behavior team really working on some systems, right? How do we change from reacting to behaviors to getting on the other side of behaviors and able to support students where they're at and where they need to be, and so that they understand the benefit of behaviors that support learning. So we have our behavior core team, which includes our school psychologist, our counselor, 2 classroom teachers, our behavior support specialist, our dean of students, one of our paras, she's our SEL support para, and our Native American interventionist, which unfortunately we do not have right now, but we are still looking. And then our lead behavior team includes Mrs. Martin, our behavior support specialist, our principal, oh that's me, and and then our support para. And so we really feel like this is the way, this is it. This is gonna really change the trajectory of a lot of our kids that we feel strongly that their behavior, that some of the behaviors in our building have affected learning in the long term. And we just really have hope and really we have hope and research and support behind changing that. And then there's our community partners. And I have to give, of course, Carmen, beautiful Carmen, who's been just so supportive of us. And every time I bring her an idea, she's right on it. And we have parents that are in our building that, like Sarah's dad and mom, and well, Carrie works there, but you know, we have great parents at Dry Creek that really support our students and the work that we do. We have an amazing, not super active PTO, but what they do, and when everything's lifted and they're able to feel more free about coming in the building, they're already planned the book fair, and we just have a lot of gratitude for the work that they do and support that they give. So we have the Native American language teachers from the Lower Elwha Clallam tribe that come twice a week and deliver language and heritage lessons to all students in the building. And let me tell you from my experience, that is such a blessing, because that is not normally how it is. And so to have all the children in our school get that exposure and knowledge and understanding is beautiful. We had a lot of support during Native American Heritage Month with the teachers from the tribe, with both of our Native American interventionists. We have one from the tribe and one that is employed by the district. We have the Native American liaison, and that's Carmen. And we also have community members that attend recess. They interact with our students. They really model positive behaviors, positive conversation. They come several times a week. And they actually just told me they were going to add a couple more adults from the tribe in particular to come and just be on the playground with the kids, which is huge. I talked briefly about Project Kindness with Carmen, and that's, again, going really well. And then we have an amazing group of teachers. As you know, I really committed to not making a bunch of change this year. I wanted to sit back. I wanted to not sit back and relax, but I wanted to really observe and see and take notes and just listen. I really wanted to just listen. And so I'm a voracious reader, and I've read this book, and it drew all the emotion and all the feeling, and then at the fall gathering that we had, some of my teachers went to this presentation, and they came back to me and said, we want to do a book study. And I said, I'm not doing a book study. I'm not going to do that this year, but if you want to. So they put the word out, and I think we ended up buying 15 or 20 books because they got so many teachers that wanted to be part of this book study. In addition to the teachers and staff, there were all of our staff were interested, and some of our staff were interested, but also there are some parents that were interested too. So I've talked to Carmen, and she's agreed to support them with that book study. And again, I was just really trying to kind of let them do that and not be something that they felt they had to do because I asked. And so that was beautiful, and many of them are here tonight that are taking part in that. And again, our community partnerships, there's Mary. We did a read aloud, was really meant to give teachers time, the gift of time for Christmas. And so teachers could sign up to have anyone in the community come read. So that was really wonderful. Lots of you guys came. And then, of course, we had Native American Day and during Heritage Month. And we had many guests from the Lower Elwha Qualam tribe come, talk to the students, demonstrate to the students, do activities with the students. It was just a beautiful day. And of course, we're always focused on our academics. So this team here really has so many pieces down that just impressed me. Margie Morfitt, who's here, is our reading and interventionist, and she's an expert as anybody could be. And she handles our assessment piece just like a master. So some of the assessment data that we're using this year, DIBELS, RANRAS, individual teacher assessment. Every time I walk in the room, in their rooms, I'm like, oh, they're just doing that beautiful formative assessment all the time. And then, of course, we're using NWEA's MAP assessment. Our goal, and we know this as a staff, is that before you can get into that Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction, you have to strengthen your Tier 1 instruction. And many of our staff are part of the pilot this year. So we have access to these different programs, and we're just really trying to figure it all out, knowing that by doing that, we're probably going to have some dips in our scores because they're getting to know these programs and figure out what's right and what works and what doesn't work. In small group instruction, as part of core instruction, as part of that Tier 1 core instruction, all the teachers and our support staff are working with differentiation, which is, of course, one of the key pieces of any math or any instruction. Our Tier 2 students are served by our reading room, Margie Morfitt, as well as her paras. And she has about 3.5 paras that support her in there. And so they are not only doing groups most of the day, but they're also in the room doing groups. They're they're out in the hallway doing groups. Some push into the classroom. It's a busy staff. Her staff, they're all doing recess duty on top of everything else. And so Margie's got a schedule down that is really masterful. And then we did start our after-school tutoring program, which has, I think, been wonderful. We've had kids from all grades, and they keep trying to come. So I kind of had to say, well, we're going to just stick with what we have now. And then we're going a 6-week session, and then we'll start again. If there's need and if there's desire, we'll start again after spring break. But we go up to spring break and then after spring break if it's appropriate. And we have actually 5 certified staff that are doing the tutoring program, and then we have, I think, actually 6 classified staff now that are supporting the tutoring, and they're all running small groups. Most are doing, actually there's a split between math and reading. So some of the groups are math and some of them are reading groups. So I wanted to just look at our reading data here, and this is, I have to tell you, I had Morgan Let me be honest, a lot of our data is incorporated in a way that might skew our general population, but what we know is that many of our students individually made progress in reading this year. As a whole, it doesn't look like we did, but when we look at our individual numbers, when they looked at their MAP data in particular, it did show growth. And so, and particularly third grade showed some growth in both reading and math. And so this data, which, you know, we know we have work to do. That's why we're tutoring. That's why we're really looking at our core instruction. That's why we're having these conversations about ensuring that we're, providing differentiation and those sort of things. And I'll tell you, when I came to the school, I knew that I didn't need to have, that academics, reading and writing didn't need to be my top priority, because these teachers and the staff have it down. They're good teachers, and they know that we have to look at ourselves, adult behavior, and how we instruct students. And so it's really amazing, a very reflective staff, and so I'm very proud of all of them. And then math instruction. So, and I don't know if everybody, even if my staff knows this, but so we did MAPS this year, of course. Our second grade just joined MAPS, so we didn't have any comparative data for second grade, but for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we did. And every one of our grades exceeded the MAP projection in growth. And so it was awesome, every one of our grades. And we have just started this conversation about math, about looking deeply at our instruction, looking deeply at how students are engaging. And so that's a conversation. We know it's not going to happen tonight or tomorrow or next week, but it's an ongoing conversation. And you know, when you adopted Eureka, we identified that not all of the teachers were here then. And so there hadn't been a lot of training for the newer staff. So we got right on that. We are working with Morgan to get some additional training on some kind of expanded thoughts and ideas about how we instruct, and so that's coming on board. We have one para that is focused on math support, and so he goes between classrooms. And then we are hiring, hopefully tomorrow, we are hiring a certified teacher as a math interventionist for the last part of the school year, and so that's really exciting. We purchased, I've been looking at a program called Dreambox. It's on the ESSA approved list, and I wrote it into our iGrant this year, and we were able to purchase that. And I am hearing really positive things from the staff about it. The students are super engaged in it. It's online, it's game-based, and what we learned was that if students work 60 minutes a month or 60 minutes a week, the research shows that scores can improve up 20% or more. And so the teachers are all invested in it, and when I tell you the kids they really are invested in it. They just love it. So, you know, when you have to bribe kids to do their work and you get to say, you get to do Dreambox, and then they do their work because they love Dreambox. And again, we're tutoring after school, and so some of the groups are math and some are reading. And then just my final slide, and just some of the stuff that's happening at Dry Creek. We have a beautiful gymnasium with really current and up-to-date equipment. Our kids love it. That's the rock wall. One of our paras tutoring small group, just one student there in the hallway. This is one of my students, Elena, and she was part of the Native American Day, and they brought these beautiful drums and shared with the students, and they got to touch them and play with them and really engage with them. And then our Gaga Ball pit. I think I talked about this last time I was here, but we got a grant from the Education Foundation and purchased the Gaga Ball pit, and the kids love it. We don't like it so much when it's wet outside because then they're scraping more. But it's like a modified dodgeball game, and the kids, they can only hit below the knee. If they kick or hit the ball, because you can't kick it, you hit it with your hand. And it really, one of our goals in the grant was to really work on sportsmanship, community building, learning how to cheer each other on. And so we continue to work on that piece because kids can get very competitive. So that's it. That's our presentation. Thank you, guys.
Julie, I want to thank you for giving us a really wonderful presentation tonight. And I want to thank all the Dry Creek folks that showed up tonight. I know this is a hard time for you to be here. So first I want to ask the board if you have any comments or questions about Dry Creek.
No, it was a wonderful report, and it speaks a lot that so many staff are here and that they're so committed to working as a team, and that makes me very happy.
Thank you. And we are. It's been beautiful. I mean, if I know none of them want to speak, but if they did, you would hear about the positive changes that are happening and just the community building we're doing and the hard work that they're putting in for all of it, because it's hard to change things, right? It's really hard. We know that. And they're doing it. So
I think our superintendent has something he'd like to say before you sit down.
Yeah, so Julie said it earlier, and I don't want to let it go unnoticed. But we've known, I've been here for 4 years, and many of you have been here a lot longer than I have. We've known that Dry Creek has the spirit of a champion and has the spirit of a great school and is a great school. And we've been missing a leader to step into that work, and work with the staff to accomplish what we know Dry Creek can do and represents Dry Creek. So when Julie started her presentation tonight, she indicated, I'm here. And I don't want to let that go unnoticed. Julie is here, she's leaned into the work, she's committed to the work, has a phenomenal team working alongside her, with her, together to create the solutions necessary to make Dry Creek, everything it's imagined to be. So thank you, Julie, for your commitment to our district. Thank you to the staff for coming out tonight, showing your dedication, through thick and thin, and doing what's best for your students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. I'd like to give permission to all those sweet Dry Creek people that are here to get up and go home, do what you need to do.
Night.
Again, congratulations. Thank you for coming. We're real proud of your students and you. Okay. And now waiting patiently in the back of the room is Lisa, and she's been such a trooper. We want to welcome you to hear about our CTE program. Again, this is a really project that I love, and I love to hear about it, and I want it to grow and grow and grow. So thank you, Lisa, for coming.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you to everybody for allowing me to be here tonight to share again about CTE. So first I'll just give a little update on enrollment in classes, and then I'll share some of the exciting things that our leadership groups are doing, and then we'll have the pleasure of Captain John Picker speaking about the NJROTC program. So we just have started registration at the high school, and we have some new classes in the CTE department that I'm excited about. Last year we started, or this was the first year, and if you remember when I was here at this time last year, it was Athletic Trainer 1. Well, we've changed the name to Sports Medicine. The instructor said that that more parallels with her student leadership organization, and it's just more consistent across the state with other schools. So Next year, we'll be offering the second year of that program, Sports Medicine 2. Anatomy and physiology isn't new, but I'm excited that we're adding another section, so we'll have 3 sections of anatomy and physiology. The reason we're doing that is that the science department surveyed all the students. They did a presentation in all of the science classes and surveyed the students on what classes they wanted to take, and we had some numbers, so we were able to increase the sections to 3 for anatomy and physiology. Information technology and networking fundamentals were actually classes that were offered through the Skills Center when it was open, so we're resurrecting them. Susan Bettinger will be teaching those, and she also teaches the cybersecurity and computer forensics, so it's just a way to build that pathway a bit, and we're excited about those 2 options, and we'll be seeking dual credit for those classes as well through PC. Welding 3 will be the last of the welding classes. Each year we've brought in another year, so Welding 3 is our capstone. And then the visual communication design is kind of a combination of, a few years ago we offered web design and we offered social media. Jen Rogers is going to teach that, and the curriculum's going to be based on Adobe products. So I'm excited about that because our kids are getting experience in developing skills with Google, and through the other business classes is Microsoft, and now we'll have a class that clearly focuses on Adobe. So good things are happening for next year. For program approval this year, it was for STEM and health services, and so those approvals have been submitted. Health sciences have already been approved. STEM is pending. OSPI's site was shut down for about 30 days. They were having some trouble with the career and tech ed section of it, so it's back up and running, so I expect to hear about that in the next week or so. We just go back one, Jenny, sorry. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Our FTE is down a little bit for both Stevens and the high school from our October count, or from when I last presented, but still a pretty substantial increase from last year, so we're excited about that. So we're just going to continue to evaluate our programs, look for areas of improvement, try to identify our barriers, and continue to offer quality programs so kids will keep taking our classes. So hopefully that those FTEs will stabilize or increase anyway. This is what I'm really excited about. We have so many increased dual credit opportunities for our students. And we've always articulated with Peninsula College, and last year at this time I spoke of 10 that we had pending with PC, and just recently, it's taken over a year, just a couple of weeks ago we were able to finalize the Fine Woods for 3 credits and the cabinet making for 5. And then today, right at the end of the day when I went back after ILT, I received an email that we have the dual credit agreements ready to be signed. They should be in my email tomorrow for writer news and video production. So each of those classes will be 5 college credits through PC. But some of the classes that we offer, the programs either weren't offered at PC, or some of the instructors didn't want to articulate because they felt like it was going to take away from their enrollment, and their programs had low enrollment. So I reached out to Olympic College, and I reached out to them probably about 3 weeks ago, and we already have all these articulations in place. So anatomy and physiology will get 9 credits. Health was just finalized today. They're going to get 2 credits, but that's still awesome because all of our kids all of our 9th graders have to take health, so they'll automatically have 2 college credits. And then sports medicine will be 5, welding 1, 17 credits our kids are going to get. Wow. And that one was finalized today. It's finalized, the stamps on it, and it's put away. Welding 2 is still pending, but they notified us that they're anticipating that it will be for 15 credits. And so this not only gives our kids opportunities for free college in the high school, but remember, it also increases our graduation pathways, because in order to use a CTE pathway as a graduation option, it has to be 2 credits, and one of those credits has to either be a dual credit class or lead to an industry certification. And so every time we get a dual credit, it just creates more opportunities for our students. So we are going to continue to look for more dual credit courses. And then, of course, that third bullet, those are just the other classes that we have pending at PC. And hopefully they have a new person, new workforce director, and I've been speaking with him, so I think things are going to start happening in a little faster pace than they have been recently. So looking forward to some more dual credit opportunities. So our CTSO members, all of our current Tech Ed student organization members and our advisors have been really busy this year. One thing that I'm really excited about is TSA, the Technology Student Association. I thought this year that I'd put the actual name so you all knew what the acronym stood for. So there's 34 members in that group at Stevens and Seaview, and 17 of them have qualified for state. And so since we have developed a stronger CTE program at Stevens, this is the first time the kids are going to get to actually go to a conference and compete. So they'll be going March 16th to the 19th to CTAC to compete. And if you remember last year, our team of two, Becca and, I gotta look at my notes. Lizzie, thank you. Becca and Lizzie took first place at National, so I can't wait to see what's gonna happen this year. Our DECA has 88 members. It's the largest club that we have in our CTE program areas. 33 of those members, though, are professional members, so they're professionals. Let me backtrack. 33 are professional or alumni. So they're alumni of the program or professionals from the community that are supporting DECA and paid to be professional members. And so they'll come in as guest speakers or help prep our kids for competitions and that type of thing. The Rider Avenue store was just recognized as a gold level, or just earned a gold level certification. And so in order to earn that, they had to put together a very detailed business plan, and it outlines the operation of the store from before school starts to setting up, ordering, layout, displays, to closing the books at the end of the year in June. So it's a real rigorous process that they go through, and they just earned that award. We were just notified last month that they received that, and not every student store earns that recognition. So it's a fairly prestigious award. So we're really proud of that. Every year, DECA has put together their holiday food baskets. And this year they delivered 35 Hollywood. They went to Hollywood. Holiday food baskets to families in our district.
Wow.
And one thing that's really special about that all comes from the kids. Granted, they do get some turkeys and hams donated, but they have to go out and get those donations. And so this is just a total school student supported project. So we're always proud of that. So the picture on the bottom right is all of the food in Jen Rogers' classroom. They're trying to put the baskets together. And then the two pictures in the middle are students from Stevens prepping for the TSA competition. And then on the left-hand side, we have our DECA leadership team in the DECA store. And if you've never been to the Rider Avenue, I'd invite you to come up there and see it. It's been remodeled, and it's really nice. They've really done a good job. It's very professional, very organized. They have a POS system just like they would if they were out working in industry, so it really gives the students a good experience. Look at my notes, see if I read anything. Okay, so Health Occupation Students of America, that's HOSA. And in the past for Health Careers, they've always used Skills USA as their leadership component, but HOSA really is directly related to health occupations or careers. And they have 12 members. They just started this club a couple months ago. They've just elected their officers and done some initial planning. But they had their first competition, and 4 students competed. It's the first time we've ever competed in HOSA, so it was new. It was new to me. It was new to Shauna, the instructor, and so the smaller picture in there, you'll see a student. He's acting like he's choking because the test or the competition consists of 2 parts. So there's a written part. So they had this written test. It was a time test, 60 minutes, and then the second part they had teams of 2. We only had 2, but they had to video themselves, and they knew that they had to video that one team member had to perform CPR on the other, and then the other one they were just given a first aid event, and so his scenario was that he was choking, and so he had to act like he was choking, and then his partner, they had to video it as he showed the proper way to fix, obstructed airway, all the steps. And I looked at the rubric for it, and it has used hand sanitizer, put the gloves on the proper way. I mean, it's step by step by step. You don't think it's that much when you go behind them and give them their little Heimlich maneuver, but it's a very detailed step-by-step process. So it was fun to watch that and be a part of it. FBLA has 28 members this year. They just had 15 qualify for state, so they'll be going to Spokane in April. The picture on the stairway is when they went to the regional competition, and it was the first time they went to a live competition since the pandemic, so they were pretty excited about it. They're all dressed up in their professional attire. They just got done promoting FBLA awareness by having an FBLA week, and they had different dress-up days. Tuesday was March of Dimes. They wore purple because March of Dimes is the community service partner with FBLA, and normally FBLA organizations will do a fundraiser for March of Dimes every year. And they had a professional day. Wednesday was Teacher Appreciation Day, so they delivered to all the teachers a mug that was filled with treats, so that was kind of fun. And then they had the professional day, of course, and then on Friday they had their FBLA t-shirt day. And some of you may have seen their article in the paper. They were in the Olympic Business Journal. It was called Progress. It was just a couple of weeks ago, and they interviewed Bernie, the advisor, and they interviewed some members about the goals of FBLA and their experiences with FBLA. And I was actually kind of shocked when I read it because my dad's name was in there because he was the first one to have established an FBLA chapter in Port Angeles. So that was a surprise. NGOTC, always an award-winning program, very prestigious. I'm not going to elaborate on it because Captain Picker will be up here to talk about the gear and the benefits of NGOTC, but they always they've always devoted so many hours to community service. Every year they seem to win more awards, and I just am really honored to be a part of such a successful program that is just so good for kids. So thank you. I'm excited to hear what you have to say in a few minutes. Let's see. Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, that's Skills USA. And they have 22 members this year. They just had a competition for manufacturing. Only 4 people competed, so they're awaiting their results. But what was fun about that, and the picture on the bottom right, you can see the kids with the numbers on them. The 2 that are standing in the background, I could just show this. Forget this is here. These 2 right here. It was like a reunion because the one in the plaid is Mike Frick, and he's the retired manufacturing machine shop teacher. And he's talking to Connor Heilman, who is a graduate of Port Angeles High School who went through the program. And they were judges for the event. So, like I said, it was like a reunion. I walked in there, and I was kind of shocked to see him. So that was fun. They came in and competed on a Saturday. They're given specs and a project they have to create. I don't know. I don't know a lot about machining, so, but they had to draw it. They had to make this part. And anyway, Mike and Connor, they run the event and are judges, and then the results are sent in to Skills USA, and we are waiting to see if they qualify to go on to state. Our robotics class had an internal competition. It was so fun to watch. That's the group of students from the robotics class. They built and programmed their robots. And the day I was there, they had to grab a writing utensil, had to grab a piece of paper, and they had to draw a smiley face. It was so fun to watch. And then another day when I went, another part of their competition was, it was almost like an obstacle course. They had to pick something up and move it over here. And then on the last day, they brought them all down to the student center and they had races. So Ms. Bettinger teaches that class as well. And she is hoping that next year they'll be able to compete against other schools. So we'll be excited to see what they can do next year. So leadership is always, always busy. They just had their winter assembly. It was a little bit different. We had a parade, kind of like the graduation parade. The teams were in trucks, or they just walked and they had banners and the band played, and all the students got to go outside. We lined the service road, and so that was fun. It was something new and something different, and it got everybody outside. They're working on 3 projects this month. Wellapalooza, some of you are probably familiar with that. We're bringing that back. It's going to be near the end of May. And that is a day when students we have about 3 hours, so they have about 3 sessions that they get to attend, and they pick from this long list of workshops or classes, if you will, that they can attend. And they have anything from dog obedience to making healthy smoothies to Sea Scouts, kayaking. Zumba. They had Zumba, yeah. Zumba. Fly fishing. It's just a wide range of events. And what's so special about this day is that, well, one, the students get to choose something that they're passionate about, but also that we have members from the community that are up teaching those classes. So it's a connection between the community and the school, so that's fun. And that's going to happen, as I said, the end of May. They don't have an exact date yet. They're also teaming with, leadership is teaming with AJ Teal, and I have to look to see what her title is because I always forget. AJ Teal and Rachel Ray, who's the coordinator for the Healthy Youth Coalition. So they're hoping with them joining in on the project that maybe they can have some sessions that are geared towards SEL and issues like that, drug and alcohol, because AJ's our drug and alcohol counselor, so maybe just some strategies and support in that way. And then communication technologies, Patrick McGinnis's program, he just keeps winning awards. They just submitted 15 videos to the National Academy, so we're waiting to hear on that. But we just found out yesterday that Piper Jensen, and if that name sounds familiar to you, she last year won an Emmy for her video on Snowboarding Evolves, but she was just selected to have a video that she made on straight slice pizza be featured in the Washington Superintendent Art Show that's going to be broadcast on May 26th. So she keeps winning awards herself. She's doing a great job with her skills in the video production. I think she's going to really go on to great things. And then Into the Woods, just put that there because Theater Tech, they always are working together with our art department, drama department, to help those productions be streamed live, and it gives people an opportunity to watch from the comfort of their old home. And of course they help with the buildings of the sets and production in that way. So the other 2 pictures are leadership students. They during finals week in the morning, they stood out in front of the school and they handed out pencils with positive messages on them, and there's something else they could get to. I think they had treats in the door for them. And right when I said that, I just realized I skipped 2 things, so it kind of threw my concentration. I'm going to jump back up to the February projects. After Wellapalooza, it has Gratitude Tree and Galactic Gratitude. Leadership is also focusing on gratitude in February. So the Gratitude Tree is a tree that's going to be on the wall in the entryway of the 100 Hall. And students are all going to get our teachers are all gonna get a leaf for every student in their third period class, so every student should have a leaf, and their third period teacher is gonna write a positive statement about them or gratitude about them. So every student will be recognized on that tree. They're gonna start building it at the base and then out with all the branches. And then they're also going to have a Galactic Gratitude Day where during third period, students and teachers will have the opportunity to write a gratitude for the school. It can be for anything. On stars and moons, and they're gonna hang them in the 100 hall and the 400 hall. So I'm just excited that leadership keeps focusing on positive recognition for our students. I think it helps with the culture and climate, and it's fun to see. It's going to be fun to see the students try to find their, their star, their moon, or their leaf on the tree. So that's what they have going on for February. Okay. Now that just totally threw me off, sorry about that. I have the honor of introducing, or welcoming, I should say, everybody knows you, I think, Captain Jonathan Picker to talk about the NJROTC program. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
I'm not doing anything.
Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening and giving me a few minutes to talk about the NJROTC program. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Captain John Picker, and this is my 9th year as a senior naval science instructor at the high school. And before that, I was in the Navy for 30 years. Took me around a lot of places, and actually the last place I was stationed was with NATO in Portugal. So I'll tell you where I'd be right now if if you were watching the news. I'd probably be in a bunker right now doing something. Anyway, a lot of people ask the question, well, what is NJROTC? It is simply a course in citizenship. That's it. We teach a lot of things in the course that helps develop our children to be good citizens. It could be simply about teaching a kid how to serve their community. And we do this through community service. We do it by building personal relationships with children. We try to teach them what it means to finish something, to understand the meaning of meeting obligations, how to lead and manage other people, work in teams. Now, I think you know this young man over here, and I'm going to ask him to talk to you a little bit because, I can say everything. I'm just the old guy talking into a microphone. But, the proof is in the pudding here by just hearing from the student exactly what we do. But to go back, we teach our children how to be good citizens through classroom instruction. A lot of the things that we teach reinforces what they're already learning in school. Yeah, it could be science, it could be math, it could be history. We do this in a backdrop of the Navy, which we are a Navy unit. And so, for instance, we just finished a unit on naval weapons. Just a short unit, and it's actually, but it gets into science and a little bit of physics and talking about ballistics and things like that. We've taught oceanography, meteorology. Last year, or actually 2 years ago, I taught a section on maneuvering board, which you go, well, what is this? Well, this is something we use at sea, but it's really vector analysis, teaching kids a little bit about the practicality of what they learn in school and how it's going to be applied in the real world. And we also do it through the teams that we get kids involved, because learning is happening. It's not just about competing. It's about teaching our young folks how to be good sportsmen, with one another. That it's not all about winning. It's how we work together. It's about how they lead and manage other students on the team. So our teams, if you ever came to our practice, you probably would see something very different than you might see in a lot of other teams, because if you're selected as a captain for a team, you are truly leading that team and coaching that team. And my job and my coworker, Senior Chief Beck, our job is really just to guide whoever the leader is. And we want to take, honestly, the best way to learn is through failure. And our job is to try to help guide them to the point where they might fail, and that we're there to pick them up, and so that the failure isn't too great. And this happens with, it could be a discussion with a student, it could be how to do something, whatever it is. And that's essentially what we do. Now, because we teach so many things, we offer many avenues for credit for graduation. Students receive PE credit if they take NJRTC, because quite frankly, being a good citizen, it's a part of citizenship, is to live a healthy lifestyle. So that is part of what we teach. We teach health to freshmen in their second semester, which is also satisfies a graduation requirement. In their second year, because we do teach some science, high school students receive some science credit. And then, of course, through the course of their 4 years, they have vocational credit. And last year, I think it was that it was approved that drill team is fine art credit. And if you ever watched our drill team, you would understand that, wow, it's a dance class, essentially, where they're having to learn how to do something with precision, but they're choreographing essentially a dance, which is an exhibition routine. They do this all on their own. They do this all on their own, and it takes a lot of hard work, and it's very satisfying for Senior Chief Beck and myself to see them succeed. Now, I want to tell you a little story, and it happened to me today that just makes me feel this is why it's worth it. So we had a practice yesterday afternoon, and the captain of our team, he did something that I was a little disappointed with. And then around 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, I get a text message, and he says, "Captain, I really need to talk to you." I said, "Okay, great. We'll talk about it today." So we sat down at lunch today, and he said things that just made me feel like the program has really helped him become a man, and he's ready to graduate. Because we had discussions about character, about doing right by other students, how he failed, he understood his failures without my prodding, and how he planned to correct those, in the future. And he showed real empathy for the people that he was working with. And I just wanted to cry at the end of it, because I just thought, this young man really gets it, and he's going to be really successful when he moves on into the world. And I think that's what we strive to do as high school teachers in the NJRTC program, is trying to nudge people like Luke Gavin here, so when he graduates, I'll just tell you right now, it's going to be nice to see you when you graduate, but I really don't want to see you, because I want you to launch into the world, and I want you to be successful, and I want you to find a career path, and I want you to go off and do great things, okay? And I don't want you to look back. I want you to look forward. And that's what I hope for all of our students. Now, in our teams, I do want to highlight something. This is kind of exciting. Every year, one of the teams shines, and this year it's been our precision air rifle team. And they have just been phenomenal. It's not been a division level thing. It hasn't been a state level thing. This has been a national level thing, where our precision team finished 6th in the nation, which takes a lot of work and dedication for the kids who are involved in that program. If you don't, just to put it in context, so the Navy has I think it's 585 high schools that are involved in the NJRTC program. So that's how many high schools are involved in this kind of program. And to finish sixth is pretty awesome. We've had one student on that team who got picked up for a college scholarship in Tennessee, which is fantastic. And just the other day, I mean, honestly, we just found this out yesterday, where we got a phone call where one of the shooters, Brandon Murphy, was selected to compete in the all-service championship. So what they do is when the kids competed in the Navy championship, 13 kids are selected and a couple of other teams to go compete with all the other services. And so Senior Chief Beck will be going with her and her mom to Ohio here in a couple weeks to wave the Rough Rider flag over here in the Midwest, which is pretty exciting. So I'm going to end it there, and I want you to hear from Mr. Gavin here, which I think is he's an outstanding student at Port Angeles High School because he's involved in so many things, and I think his perspective is unique. You know, he's a leader on DECA. He's been on leadership of the high school. And quite frankly, he's Mr. Positive. Oh, he's also in the orchestra also all 4 years. So they're all programs that really are about building relationships, because building relationships really is how we succeed in high school. And I know my conversation today with a student would not have happened if I hadn't have had a relationship with that student. And Mr. Gavin, would you like to say a few things? I think you know him.
Oh, yes. Hi. So as Captain Picker mentioned, I'm involved in a lot of different things, but really the NJROTC unit that I'm in is really what's helped build me as a better person and as a better citizen. And it comes down to all the opportunities that it provides through teams and leadership and community service. It helps build you as a person so that when you enter as a freshman, you know, we're shy, we're not sure what we're doing, and the program takes you in and it builds you and it creates this family for you so that you can grow. And by the time you're a senior, you're leading teams, you're leading class. In classes, we have platoon commanders which run class and teach other kids. So it comes full circle from being the follower to being the leader. And it helps every single person in that unit grow, whether it's being in charge of that whole unit or simply just coming in as a student who doesn't want to work. And then I can confidently say that 99% of the students that leave the program are students that are willing to put in the work. If we ask them to do something, they're like, yes, I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to go complete that work. Just an example with our teams, we have our drill team up there in the middle and our air rifle team on the side as well. And something that our teams really build is, helping each other and making sure that, we're not leaving people behind. If someone doesn't show up to practice, it's not necessarily the instructors that reach out to them, but it's all the other kids in the program that reach out to them and say, hey, how are you doing? And, that's not something I can say happens in a ton of other clubs or activities, just because we build those really, really close bonds in our unit. And it helps students develop and helps bring other people in. I would not be where I am today if I wasn't involved in this unit. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. One more thing. Okay, so here's something that we're not doing well in, is the fourth bullet down there, which are college scholarship opportunities. Now, this is not cadet specific, but we have opportunities through the ROTC program, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, to get kids involved in serious STEM scholarships. There isn't a better STEM scholarship out there than an ROTC scholarship or going to one of the service academies. And I will tell you that it pays 100% tuition. It pays a stipend every month to students when they're part of the program. When you are a senior, you're making $650 a month, so it works up as from a freshman. And then you have career opportunities that you spend every summer doing cool stuff related to what your future career might be. And you know, I truly would like to see more students interested in doing these kind of things, because it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're joining the military. It could mean that it's a pathway to the military. And I'm an example of that. I went to the University of Washington on an ROTC scholarship with no intent or desire to join the Navy. And I did it strictly as a financial reason to do it. And my plan was to turn the scholarship back in when my obligation not to pay anything back to the Navy was up. And I discovered through the different things that we did that this was something that was pretty cool. And I kind of ended up doing lots of cool stuff for about 30 years, and I had no plan ever in high school. So you never know what's thrown at you. And so whether it's an apprenticeship program through one of the CTE programs offered, or through an ROTC scholarship, we have a lot of opportunities to get kids down the path to be successful in society today. So my one hope on the screen is to get more kids involved with scholarship opportunities at the high school. But that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me this evening.
Questions, comments, forward?
I always have questions. I wrote one down here. I wanted to know how we can help retain the ROTC program at the high school. I realize your numbers, you need more numbers. Is that correct?
Okay, so the contract between the school district and the Navy stipulates that we have to have 100 students or 10% of the student population at the high school. Whichever is less. So this is a complicated, this is complicated because we have a fragile ecosystem in our school district as far as the population that we have. We have one middle school, we have one high school, and several elementary schools, and we have a pretty finite population that we draw on. And we have a lot of opportunities at the high school level for kids to explore. And so we're all competing for the same resource, this kid right here. And he's going to get involved in the things that he wants to get involved in. Now, because of COVID, we have essentially not been able to get the message out to students in the middle school. And it's no fault of anybody, it's just that's what has happened. And so through a course of re-education, we hope that students will come shopping at your local NJRTC course and decide to register for it. So the middle school has been provided I'll just say, an information video that they can show to students before registration. 8th grade night at the high school. All of the CTE programs, since the middle school will not be coming up for a CTE day, we'll all have an opportunity to talk to kids and show kids. And truthfully, ROTC is one of these things that if you're in middle school and you don't see and hear and see young men like this, you don't know what it is. I mean, I know what woodworking is. I know what business, one of the business courses is, but what's ROTC? And they learn about that by seeing what we do and hearing what these young folks have to say about the program. So I'm hoping, quite honestly, that through the videos that we've shown over at Stevens and the effort that's going to happen in 8th grade night, that that our numbers will get back up. That's about all. That's about all I can say, for right now. So, I mean, we're doing our best, and it's connecting. But we also have the barriers that have been because of what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I hear excellent things about your program and
Thank you.
about you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think your program is an outstanding one. I've come to a lot of the competitions. It's so interesting to me to see what happens in the competitions. They're just amazing. And of course, I always, when I see the team come out with the flags, what is that called?
Color guard.
The color guard always is just makes me feel very proud.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm glad I couldn't have paid you more to say that.
I'll see you later in the hall.
Okay. We are having a competition.
Yes, you are.
We are hosting on Saturday, and if you would like to see something of what our young cadets are doing, come on out Saturday at the high school from about 9:30 to about 4 o'clock. And I haven't told anybody this, but we have convinced the Navy Band to come up, and they'll be playing in the awards ceremony, our national anthem and a little other music. So it'll be a big to-do. So 7 high schools, about 250 cadets, all running around our high school, doing their thing. And so it is kind of exciting.
It is an
Following
amazing,
COVID protocols too.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is an amazing thing to watch if you've never done it and you have a chance to run by. It's something just amazing to see. Lisa, thank you for your report tonight. It's been very interesting and informative. Captain, we welcome you. I'm glad to see you again. Luke, we're very proud of you and what you've done with the NJROTC. So spread the word. Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you all so very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having us and letting me share about our program. I feel I'm really blessed because I get to get up every morning and come to work and work with instructors like Captain Picker and students like Josh. And so I'm lucky. I have an amazing career, and our kids are doing great things, and I'm really proud of them, and I'm always happy to share. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to follow that up with, I really appreciate the innovation around new programs, coming that are interest-based, that bring new opportunities to our students, both at all 3 locations, Port Angeles High School, Stevens Middle School, and now Lincoln High. So I really appreciate that innovative way of thinking and giving our students an opportunity to earn dual credits, different pathways for graduation. All of that is critical in today's world of choice for students. So I appreciate that, and the continued excellence of the NJROTC program is just outstanding. It seems like every other day I'm signing a form for somebody to go somewhere to do something great across the United States. So I appreciate that, and thank you for your leadership, Captain Pickler and Josh. Good job. Or I'm sorry, Luke. Luke, that was your brother.
I did that. I called you Josh. That was my fault.
Luke,
I did.
congratulations and job well done.
Thank you. That's because the Gavin men are everywhere, so thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate what you've done.
Look, I did it again.
I don't know where that came from.
He's my brother.
She has an excuse, but I don't really know your brother, so.
I know your name, Luke, because I don't know any of your brothers. And Sonny, we're proud of you too.
Thank you.
We certainly are. Okay, it's time for us to look at enrollment and financial reports. And Kira, thank you for waiting so long to present all that information.
Of course. We good?
No.
It's not on.
Gotta be touching your mask.
Okay, it's touching my mask. Yay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so it's really hard to follow up on all that great, interesting stuff, but numbers are interesting too.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Thank you, Miss Sandy. Okay,
Yeah.
so
I like numbers.
yes,
Katie likes numbers.
she does. Yes. right, so February enrollment. For our head count, we just went, I'm sorry, we went. Got it there, Jenny? We're good? Okay. Okay, so we went just down one from 3478 to 3477, so just one student there. And then with FTE, we
Am I in the wrong spot?
down one more. Right there. And so then in FTE, we did go down 11, just with the fluctuation probably between Seaview and the high school. There was quite a bit of movement in between Seaview and the high school this month. So, you know, there wasn't a lot of, I've done these withdrawal slides for you guys, but there really wasn't a lot to report, so I decided not to add it and just talk a little bit about it. We had 17 students district-wide move from Seaview back to brick and mortar, and then vice versa. From brick and mortar to Seaview, there was 23 of them. So, and it was just kind of across the board. The high school was a little bit higher at 12 moving from Seaview to the high school, and then 13 coming back. So it just sort of evened itself out, really. So we had 6 students transfer out of the state of Washington, and then 6 to unknown states. So there's a little bit of movement, but as you can see there, you know, that there's more that are coming in as well. So the other thing I was looking at before I came to the meeting was, you know, just we're starting to look at enrollment and budgets for next year and try to get some ideas of what we can expect. And I'm always curious about, I've been watching Running Start pretty closely, and comparing from last year. If you want to scroll down, Jenny, to, is it hard to scroll down? I can just talk about it, it's fine.
Page 10. Page 10.
Okay, so I just thought this was really interesting. The amount of students that we have in Running Start only has decreased from 108 to 56. So last year we had 108 full-time Running Start students, and this year we only have 56. But it's flip-flopped this year, where last year we had 46 part-time, and now we have 107. So it's interesting how they're not going full-time. And it's, you know, so just kind of trying to anticipate what's going to happen next year with that, I think is going to be a challenge. So it's just, there's more kids taking fewer classes. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, Lisa stole my show about pointing out how great CTE is doing and how that how that enrollment is up. So I really didn't have any other points that I wanted to mention in the enrollment.
I had a question about that. So the CTE, when we're talking about the CTE numbers in the budget,
Mm-hmm.
the CTE numbers, are those weighted, or are they somehow, when you're counting the CTE numbers, the FTE, are they weighted when you count the FTE, or are they weighted in the budget later? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, they have their own category as far as how many students are in those classes and how much time they're spending during their day in a CTE class.
Yeah.
So then once those FTE are generated, then we can we actually receive separate CTE enhancement funding.
Yeah.
So that comes out in the budget calculations when we turn it into OSPI, and it'll show us a flat amount of what we'll expect to see based on
projections. Is that? But it just takes the straight FTE count then?
Yes.
It's done based on the time they're in class?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure. Any other questions about February enrollment?
I had one.
Yeah.
Just, you were comparing the part-time to Running Start.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are those both funded the same? They're both considered part-time funding? If a student is taking like part-time classes at the high school or they're at Running Start, do we get the same amount of money for that student?
We do. We receive a pass-through from the state to pay for them to go, but if they're going to Running Start, then we're not actually receiving the FTE for their seat time in the district.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't cost us anything for them to go there, but it does because we're not able to
'cause
count the
that's not a
FTE.
student.
Yeah.
Okay. And if we have part-time students, we receive partial funding?
Partial.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So those numbers are good then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd like to have them there all day, but
Yeah, right.
it's good. I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Kara?
Yeah.
I want to ask about the developmental preschool.
Uh-huh.
That's not included in kindergarten, is it? The numbers?
No, those are a separate.
Okay, because I didn't see them in here, and I just wondered what we're looking at attendance-wise for those, what are there, 3 of them, I believe? One's at Franklin, one's at Roosevelt, Hamilton.
Yes. And I believe that those
And
are.
Is Hamilton, do they have one?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, it's Franklin and Dry Creek.
And Dry Creek, oh, okay.
Dry Creek has one and Franklin has one.
And Roosevelt?
Roosevelt has one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about those, how we count, those are federally funded? Or state funded?
We get a little federal funding for preschool, and then we also get state funding as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments on enrollment?
I'm happy to add a piece to our charts that show the enrollment for preschool.
Okay.
If you'd like to, would you like me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
of course.
Is that too much trouble?
No, not at all. We'll do
Okay,
that,
thank
of
you,
course.
that'd be good.
Do we have CView CTE numbers? Do we have any?
There are some students that are in CTE classes from CView, but they would be embedded in the whole CView, or in the CTE high school
Okay.
numbers. Yeah.
Because I didn't see anything on the CTE.
Yeah, I can actually create a line for that as well.
I
If
don't
you're
know
if
I
you're
needed it,
curious.
I just wanted to know where it was getting counted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they're mainly at the high school, or if they're in high school, then they would be in the CTE. I'm guessing there are probably a few CTE students at the middle school as well, but they would be counted in that main number under the CTE.
What number do we decide to start with when we start budget planning? Because I know that's.
Usually we'll look at a trend if there's a lot of movement back and forth. Trying to after students roll up. So depending on what kind of activity there was the year before, it's just Marty and I've kind of taken that approach where we've taken the 3-year average, which would be hard here. So we've had pretty consistent numbers of kids coming into kindergarten. So that's been kind of that's always a hard one to project, but.
Yeah, you talked about that before too.
Yeah.
Okay.
This year was big, it's big this year, kindergarten, but.
Well, we have the added transitional kindergarten as well.
Okay.
And those numbers are embedded in the school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we'll talk more about that as well, at our budget workshop on the 10th.
Okay.
We'll be able to look at all the numbers and make some decisions there too, or have you guys start thinking about which direction you want to go.
Okay. Any other questions about enrollment? Okay, Kara, you wanna move on to finance?
Sure. Can't even smile at you guys. I'm smiling at all of you.
We can tell.
Okay. So here's our budget status report for the debt service, ASB, and transportation vehicle fund. So one thing I've been looking at and chatting with the high school, with our bookkeeper at the high school with ASB, is trying to figure out revenues with the change in our that House Bill 1660 with the waivers, where students are allowed to, not allowed, but they can turn in waivers to waive all of their fees, their ASB card and their participation fees. So this year we saw about a $12,000 decrease in the amount of revenue we brought in overall. So about 60% of that we figure is more ASB waivers. So I think that we're going to be seeing a trend where there's going to be, you know, we're just going to have to kind of be prepared for this, because it's you know, I think it's going to affect their budget, and we'll have to look at how to offset that. And so I'm going to work with Tanner and with Tanya to help kind of figure out how much they might have to fundraise or just, you know, reallocate and look at funds a little bit different. So we had about 180 students participate and receive a waiver for ASB cards, and 60 students waived their participation fees. So you know, that's about $6,000 to the general fund. So we'll just have to keep watching that. And this was really the first year. Could a lot of that have been they just weren't participating because of COVID? Yes. You know, they just might not have come out and purchased their card because they weren't planning on participating in different events. So we'll probably want to talk a little bit about that during the budget season as well. Okay, next slide. So we're about 40% through the fiscal year. You can see just our fund balance there at 3.7, almost 3.8. And I have my projection the next few slides we'll go ahead and talk through as well. We have a fund balance of 10.4 in capital. Next slide. And of course the different programs broken down, continuing to, you know, spend down our other federal programs. I counted our grants. We have 35 different grants right now that are bringing in different sources of revenue. Wow. So yeah, so it's a lot, and a lot of that is, of course, with ESSER and Department of Health, and, you know, some of these new programs that we receive money for. But
that's a juggle.
Yeah, well, I don't do it by myself. I have lots of help, but okay, next slide. And so for our just the comparison, you know, our spending for MSOCs for the supplies and materials is at least this month it's very similar to last month. No big shifts. So we always seem to have that larger uptake in the spring, and then people getting ready for next year too. So next slide. And then here, you know, we have seen a lot of fluctuation just month to month with our salaries and benefits of, you know, paying different time card projects, people doing, you know, turning in different things, increased contracts with all those grants that I was sharing. Okay, next slide. And I really like, you know, I brought this slide back because I wanted you to be able to see the revenues. There really isn't a spot in my presentation that talks about the revenues that are coming in. So this is really, I think, probably the easiest way for you guys to see the difference of the revenues coming in. We received $4.8 million this month for a total of $23 million. for the year, and then how those, those expenditures offset these encumbrances. These are all contracts or planned expenses that we haven't spent yet, but that's all. It might as well be spent because we've just we have to encumber that to plan ahead and be able to project. So as you move down, you can see our ending fund balance of 3.7 right now. And that was our 4 million was our beginning fund balance. So it just breaks it all down for you. Okay, so here's the projection for the end of the year. What I did was I took all of our revenues and then took our highest month, which was 4.8 million, and then just spread it across the months. So, we have to I have to either pick an average or pick the highest expense, and with 4.8, this is how we are going to come out at about just below 5 million in projection. So we will add to that fund balance by $1 million with this projection, and I'll just continue like we've done in past years and fill in the dots as we go. So is there any questions about this or the process? Okay. And then as we were talking about ESSER, our ESSER 3, we've been doing a lot of work these past few months, and I want to just paint it kind of a quick picture for you of each building and district-wide of what we've increased using ESSER 3 dollars. I know that Julie actually talked about it quite a bit of her her behavioral specialist and the different people that her math interventionist that's just coming on board that she's they're interviewing, or if they've already. Anyway, it's been a lot of activity by the principals to find those support people. So this is just by building of what they've been able to add, or what they have planned on adding and have gotten permission to do that, or have made decisions as a building to do that, and then it's either been posted or we're waiting to have it filled. So you can kind of see all those different spots. District-wide, we up at the top talks about utilities and HVAC, and this was something that never even crossed my mind. I don't know why, but they were talking about having those dampers open all the time and that clean air going through our buildings, and Nolan and I were talking about it. He's like, yeah, that's added like $200,000 to my budget. I'm like, of course it did. That makes total sense. It's more energy. So those are all items that can be spent through ESSER so that it doesn't go against Nolan's budget. So some different MOU pieces. We've given Becca's crew a small budget for her McKinney-Vento kids. She has a lot of needs when she's just out, working with kids, which all fall under ESSER 3. Any McKinney-Vento needs is something that Becca can help support. So anyway, these are just all the little pieces and pockets of money that we've found, and for right now we're at a total of 2.3 of our ESSER funds. So any questions for me?
I'd like to ask a question. I see this job behavior support specialist at a couple or three buildings. What is that? Behavior support specialist. I don't know what that is. Is it like a counseling person or?
Yeah, Scott, do you have the specific qualifications on the new job descriptions that we posted?
Okay. Okay, that's all right.
Is that a parent educator who may have a room where they can take kids to calm down, do some activities that'll help teach them how to monitor their behavior?
It's not a paraposition.
It's beyond that. The minimum qualifications, I can't remember. Julie actually started the trend in our district, and she created the first behavioral health therapist. I can put the job posting on Friday Notes so you can see the qualifications.
Okay.
It's not a para.
Okay.
It is not a counselor. but it's, you know, we're looking for people that have experiences in behavioral health and behavioral therapy.
Gotcha.
But it's not a certificated position as well, so they're very specialized.
Right, because I think I know one of them, but I know they're not certificated, so I was
Yeah.
making the wrong assumption that they would be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we'll put the job posting. We actually worked with Julie. She implemented the first, and Scott worked with Julie to create the job posting for it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Thanks, Kara.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carmen. Thank you, guys.
This is for your stamina.
It feels like, honestly, it feels like we're on the right track.
Yes. Yes, I
For
am.
a long time, it felt like we were in some, it feels like there's a little room to breathe.
Absolutely. And, yeah, this was the first year I didn't cringe and have a neck ache after I did the projection, so that was good.
That is good.
Yes, it was promising.
But I want to put an asterisk next to that.
Oh, no, of course.
We are using ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds.
Right.
And so the amount of staffing we have increased is substantial.
Yeah.
And so, you know, at the end, this year, we're gonna have to do a really good job this spring of assessing, you know, what we have, what we need. There will be some reductions, some minor tweaks, I think, to the budget. We have the capacity to carry that forward one more year. And thereafter, then, you know, the ESSER funds, most of them will be expensed at that point in time, and then we get back to the real world. So, but there is some potential good signs coming out of the legislature. You know, the prototypical model is gaining good traction. So nothing's done until it's over, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's a good sign. That will help offset some expenses out of our local levy. If we can, you know, even if they funded 2 nurses for us, we'd find 1.5 positions funded by the state rather than our local levy. So you find additional local dollars you can use for other purposes. And counselors, school psychologists, mental health, and like navigator types, you know, those are all be recognized in, from my understanding, in the prototypical model, which will really offset our local levy cost. As well as there continues to be a stabilization bill. And right now that stabilization bill, which is enrollment stabilization, please excuse me. The enrollment stabilization bill initially could have set us pre-COVID and funded us for a year at pre-COVID enrollment, which would have been about $1.8 million for our district. They've since reduced that about 50%, so right now the conversations are we would stand to gain an enrollment stabilization of about $900,000 if what they're talking about now actually gets passed out of the House and the Senate and signed by the governor. So there are some things potentially on the horizon that could even help us more so with regards to our budgeting woes and challenges.
And I just read, right, the legislature, the state has brought in like over $2 billion more than they had anticipated, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take a little bit of that.
Yeah, a lot of it. We want a lot of it. Okay, thank you very much, Kara. That brings us down to action items 10.01, approval of second reading of policy 3220, freedom of expression. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the second reading of this policy.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
10.02, approval of the second reading of policy 6970, naming schools, facilities, and teams, and use of school mascots, images, or logos.
I'll move this.
I'll second. Director Marks seconds.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. 10.03, approval of the second reading of policy 4311, school safety and security services program.
I move to approve the second reading of that policy.
Director Marks seconds.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Again, I'm just gonna reiterate that I hope that this, whatever our plan is to present and discuss with students, the information about the role is in the procedure.
I have one question about it.
All right.
When I was running, I spoke to, his name escapes me, but he was second in command to Brian Smith. But, and we were talking about the SRO program, and he had indicated to me that at the time, the PAPD was funding our SRO. With this policy, is that still the case, or are we now funding the SRO?
No, the city funds our SRO.
City, okay, great.
Yeah, the city funds our SRO, and we have a security officer that is funded by the school district.
Okay.
But the SRO, the armed
Yeah,
SRO
police officer.
is city funded.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. Approval of second reading of policy 5409, unpaid holidays for reason of faith or conscience. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of second reading of policy 5280, separation from employment. Do I hear a motion?
Director Marks moves.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 10.06, approval of second reading of policy 6800, safety, operations, and maintenance of school property.
I move.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of first reading of policy 2162, education of students with disabilities under section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973.
I'll move to approve the first reading.
I second.
All right. Any discussion? Marty, do we have anything we need to know about that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 10.08, approval of the first reading of policy 3112, social emotional climate. Do I
Director
hear-
Marks moves.
I'll second.
Okay, and discussion. I had something to discuss about
Yeah,
this.
I mean, I read through it, I think it's great. Did we have a policy in place before that was something?
No, this is
It's a new policy.
Okay.
This is a new policy, and I found a couple of things that are just, Jenny, I'll tell you, like
Grammar stuff?
grammar stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Could you call that out in the public record?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having to, I didn't have it written down. Well,
Is this the 504 one?
No, that's, you're on the 1007, this is 1008. Social emotional climate.
I have some comments, but I'll wait.
please go ahead
Probably
while
open
I'm
up a new
reading.
tab.
Want me to go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Well, the policy seems to reference a ton of other policies. So
Yeah.
it was an amazing list there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a student policy,
I forget it.
correct?
Probably just go right here.
And, I guess it leads me to ask where the social emotional support or policy, if we have one for teachers and staff.
There you go, hop back.
That
in.
is is that coming or is that? I looked around a little bit in the other policies and I didn't really see anything of kind of a counterpart, so.
I believe if it hasn't already happened, Katie, that it's coming because as it was referenced earlier this evening, social emotional professional development training is required for staff every other year now, as
Yeah.
well as social emotional frameworks are required for, school systems now. So I can check on that. I don't know for certain, but it would make sense to me if we haven't approved it already that we would be looking at something that would address
Cause
our staff.
this one's new, it came from WASDA, right?
It did.
So I was just kinda wondering if WASDA didn't have one
Just
coming.
last month.
Yeah, it didn't have one coming from.
And this aligns to the law that Ann referenced earlier this
Yeah.
evening.
Okay.
I found one of them, it's paragraph 2. This district recognizes there are many ways, and it should be to improve school climate. You left out the 2. Okay, now I'm trying to find the last one. Oh, one of the things I thought when you get down to the last paragraph, and it talks about an effective climate improvement process, including a cycle of 1, 2, 3, 4. Planning and preparation, evaluation, action planning, and implementation. I would suggest we move evaluation to be number 4. That comes at the end of the process. That was my concern. That was my suggestion. So then you can decide if you want to do that or not.
I thought the evaluation was in the right spot, but.
Well, it depends on what is evaluation,
Right.
referencing. Is it referencing the plan? So we evaluate the plan, and then we do the action planning and the implementation. What I would argue is almost you need a 5th, which is evaluation again, right?
The continuous cycle means that you would.
Right.
Repeat, right?
Yeah. I almost feel you, but either way, I think that Katie's right. I think that this one would have evaluation in the second spot. In that it's their,
That cycle really aligns to our CSIP planning process.
Yeah.
So, we take the planning preparation and we evaluate it, we create an action plan out of it, and then we implement it. So.
Well, then we need to evaluate again.
that's what I would have number 5 be evaluate again.
Yep.
Well,
There
then.
needs
And
to
then start all over.
There needs to be evaluation at the end of the.
I mean, we can add it there, but when you reference a cycle would
Right.
start again. And you would go through it again like the next year with regards to 1, 2, 3, 4. But if the board wants to add number 5 as a evaluation, we can certainly do that.
If this fits the law, I'm good.
Okay. Is everybody good? Any more comments, questions?
Can I get clarification on that? So there's Sandy has a 2 to add in paragraph 2. I assume everybody's okay with that. Can I get some closure on the intent of the planning cycle?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'm good. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Okay, that takes care of our action items. Are there any community comments?
No, we do not.
You sure?
All right, so that brings us to Board of Directors comments. Let's start with our student directors. Sunny, let's start with you.
Okay.
You've been so quiet tonight. Okay, we're ready.
We have welcomed Mr. Murphy as our learning strats teacher.
Oh, wait, we're not ready.
Yeah, because you really do need that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
you have
you.
to touch your mask with the mic.
Okay.
Okay.
We have welcomed Mr. Murphy as our learning strats teacher. And I would like to invite the board again to our art show tomorrow, the 25th, from 5:30 to 6:30 at Lincoln High School. We only have a couple weeks left of this trimester, so students have been working hard. And I don't have much of a report today.
Okay. Your art show, is that's fine arts, not performing arts?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
5:30 to 6:30?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Okay. Luke?
So our winter sports season is wrapping up. So girls basketball are headed to regionals tomorrow and most likely on to state. Boys basketball is also headed to a regional game tomorrow and then on to state. Wrestling, they had state and it went well. They had one person place 8th in their weight category. Boys swimming placed 8th at state and they had a couple relays that did really, really well. In JROTC, as we mentioned earlier, we have our home hosting competition on Saturday. We'll start at 10. I want to highlight it's a really great opportunity for a lot of students to, the students really put together a lot of the aspects of hosting a comp, and it's a good opportunity to learn how to manage an event. Registration's happening. Everyone registering for 7 periods and all that. That's going well. Rider News is doing a really good job putting out the different classes, especially like CTE classes that people can get enrolled in and helping get the word out about that. Winter Ball is on March 19th with a theme of Paris at night. That's being held in the newly erected tent in the Hundreds courtyard with a warm-up / game center in the student center, so that should be fun. Let's see. And then, so I want to reference Character Strong, and I know you guys know what my feelings and what the general student body feelings are. I just wanted to say that talking to a lot of students, I know that a lot of advisories either don't do it or, the advisories that do, students tend to check out of it. And that's not really for lack of, trying to do it in the beginning. It's more of a, this wasn't working and it's a waste of time, honestly. And I want to highlight that it's not bad for the people that need it. But for the kids that are busy and trying to, get homework done, talk to teachers, build those connections, by actually building connections, it's really hard to, work around all that. So that's what I got to say about that. And then, that's about it.
Any questions from our students?
Hey, Luke, can I ask a question around, I think it would be, and maybe you guys have already thought about this, but with regards to enrollment for the NJROTC program, I'm wondering how the student leaders like yourself that are so articulate and well put together, and you carry an aura about you. I'm wondering how seniors like yourself and leaders like yourself could help with the recruitment process for 8th graders. Has that discussion already taken place?
Yeah. So we tried to get down to the middle school. We weren't successful in that. We didn't really receive a lot of, hey, we'll really try to get you down here. We sent our videos, but getting us as like people down there to present. In the past, we've brought our drill team down and showed them our exhibition. We weren't going to do that because that's a lot of people to bring down. But we did want to go down there and try to present like we have in the past. But that didn't end up happening so far. As far as just like seniors going down there, we've been honestly really, really busy in the past week between winter break and now, which is our divisional comp, sort of the last of our division comps. We've been so busy prepping and everything that, even if we had time as seniors to go down there, we wouldn't, it was just too busy. But maybe after this home comp, we'll be able to, I'll be able to take some time out of after school and just, pop down there and stuff.
Yeah, I would be curious to see how that could work out as maybe some of the COVID mitigation strategies start to lessen this spring. There would be a nice opportunity to do that. So I think it's important that, videos are good and, that's great, but you can't replace like that personal interaction that you can provide or your teammates can provide to students like that your captain referenced tonight. You really don't know what it is until you see it and hear it and feel it. And so just keep that conversation going, if you would. I mean, I think we all have a vested interest to make sure that that program remains. And so anything that you, the captain, can do, your student peers can do would be much appreciated.
We're doing our best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Wright?
Would you like me to use the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just turned it off.
You did, okay. Okay, got it? Is it working? Check 1 2 1 2. I forgot the shampoo. Okay. So I had a risk assessment interview for the audit, which I didn't really know what to expect, and it was good. It was a lot of questions. The answers were very easy, and they also painted a picture of districts that are in a pickle. And they're like, how much concern did I have for our district's financing? How much risk did I think there was in certain areas of our financing? Most of them were, I don't have any concern. No, there is no risk. And really, by the time we were done, I was just really grateful for Kira. Yeah. And they ask, we just had our monthly report. They ask, is this discussed? And we're like, yeah, we get a clear report once a month. We go over everything, and so that was pretty easy. I also kind of expected the audit interviewer. I was expecting some crusty old bean counter, and then I met JJ Muter, but he is not that. He is sharp as a tack, but it looks like he's in his mom's basement.
Welcome to getting older.
Right. Yeah. And then we had the entrance interview, which Marty and Sandy and Kira were in for, and they told us how the audit's going to go, and it seemed watching this pretty cut and dried. It's laying out how it's going to go and how long it's going to take, and it sounds like they're going to be moving right through it pretty quickly. I didn't know how long these things take, but it looks like it's going to happen pretty quickly. Let's see, and then me and Marty got to have lunch, and Marty's helping me become a better board member, teaching me stuff that I didn't know and educating me on some things. And then went to the safety meeting, the school safety meeting. I had COVID, so I missed the wellness meeting, Michelle's wellness meeting, which was a bummer because I really wanted to go. And then I was pleasantly surprised that it seems that school safety and wellness are like, they seem to, I don't know, there's a lot of crossover, more than I even thought, which is great because those are both my two areas of focus. But so it's school safety has a lot to do with the emotional health of the students, and so there's a lot of crossover. But I wanted to report to the board from the meeting what we went over. So there was Karen showed us the school safety drill matrix, which is just a sheet. This shows all of the drills that need to be carried out at schools and their schedule. And there's, if I understand this correctly, Marty, you correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a certain minimum number of drills that each school has to perform on a certain schedule to maintain our liability policy, right? Or to maintain liability in case of one of those events. So each school has one, and it's very easy. Here's your schedule. You got to make sure you do, 1 earthquake drill and 3 fire drills and 1, lockdown drill. And so that was really clear. And then we have our emergency preparedness guide. It's a big red notebook that each school has. So if something happens, they can refer to it, and they can, know what to do. It kind of lays a lot of things out really clearly, and that's going to be in every school, right? Every school, every classroom? Every classroom, there it is, yes.
It is in every classroom.
It is in every classroom, yes. And COVID updates. So that got us into the discussion, the 21st being the end of mask mandates, which is good. What is left to be determined is exactly how we're going to step down all of the other protocols for COVID, and we didn't really get into it. We know that there are more, and there's going to be a lot for the administration to do, but at least the mask mandate will be lifted for sure. Let's see here.
Not necessarily in the schools, right? That's.
Yes.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Mario will get to that.
I don't get to do it?
You
Oh,
can.
you know what, I'll pass
Go
it to
ahead.
you. No, it's cool, you're the man. And then Becca Larson presented on the mobile known clinic, the mobile medical unit, and said that it's a success. Students are not only using it, but when they need something, they can get treated in like 2 or 3 days, right? They can get in there and they can get their services quickly rather than a really long wait time. And I'm gonna tour it. I haven't yet. But she invited us to tour it. She invited the other members of the safety committee as well. But so I'm gonna email Becca if you want to come. I just want to go look at it. It sounds great.
Yeah, I want to look at it too. Don't they park it right over here by the?
Wherever they want.
Parked at all 8 of our sites on a schedule every week.
Right. That's it for me. Coming your way.
Mary?
Hey, thank you. I visited Hamilton Elementary School last week, and I had a great visit. It was wonderful to be there. And I was surprised at how appreciative the staff were that a school board member was there. And so, because I have the time, my plan is to visit Dry Creek next and make that a real commitment, that at least one school a month, but 2 possibly, so depending. And then I took advantage of the opportunity to take the WASDA budget class, and that was the district one last night. It was very long. It was 5:30 to 8:30, and by the end of it, I thought, no, I'm having a Kara one-on-one. I'm not doing this again. But it was a good refresher, and it was good. And so when we were looking at it tonight, I thought, now see, it was really good you sat through all of that. But really, having a personal person go through some of this, I'll follow up with my learning. But it was a good class.
I really have nothing to add. I've not done anything really, but I am glad that in our agenda, our consent agenda, we got Marty hired on for another.
We did.
Yay.
We did.
I haven't.
Katie?
Not a lot. I do have one thing that's coming up. Part of my duties of being on the interscholastic activities committee is to send out the 6 amendments that they're putting in that they want us to know. They want to know from the school board directors if we agree with the new amendments, and so I will be sending that to Jenny so that I can get your feedback. And then part of my duties is also to contact everyone in our region, all the school board directors in our region. So this will be my first regional activity.
Good.
So yes, maybe I'll put a rubric together or something for you. Just for fun. Just for fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanted to just tell you about something I did day before yesterday. There's a new nonprofit organization coming into town, and it's called Olympic Angels, and you might have seen about it in the paper. It's kind of like CASA, only it's just for children in foster care. And it's a volunteer program, and they have, it's right now in Port Townsend, and they're getting ready to hire a person to come here. So I thought, I met with their executive director, and I thought I'd give Becca's name to him so they might could work together some way. Other than that, I've just been doing the regular thing. We had agenda meeting, and we got Marty's contract done for the next year, and I think I'm the only one that signs that. Is that correct? And did PAEF meeting. I had to leave early from that one though. So anyway, that's the Port Angeles Education Foundation, and they were talking about Bill Kindler's scholarship funding that's gonna go through the PAEF. And I guess this will be the first time that's done, correct? For this year, there'll be some scholarship money. Okay, so that's me. And here's Marty. I feel like I'm on comic night.
Can you hear me? Okay, so, a couple things, to talk about. So, you know, we continue to hear lots about, our social-emotional curriculum, Character Strong. Something that the captain said tonight that stuck with me and resonated, and then Luke followed up with that, is the NJROTC, I'm sorry, yeah, Luke, I got it right this time, thank you. But the NJROTC program is really a course on citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
So if you're not in NJROTC, you know, where do you pick up on these soft skills that are necessary to be, you know, the type of outstanding, you know, students that we have sitting in front of us today.
Mm-hmm.
And then Luke's comment around, you know, representing that there are some students that need it. And that's our real challenge, is how do we balance this out to make it so that, you know, we're providing the social emotional supports for all of our students. So it's not easy. But next month, or next week, you know, the first meeting in March, the teaching and learning report's really going to be focused on social-emotional work of the district. And so that will be a targeted piece of information. Then from a K-12 perspective, you know, you heard Julie reference it earlier this evening, that kindness is the Character Strong word of the month at the elementary level. Who can argue with kindness?
Right.
You know, I mean, we need more of that. There's a young lady, and I have her permission to read this. I'm not going to read the whole thing for, you know, because of time this evening, but her name is Mallory Hartman. She is at Franklin Elementary School. She's a 6th grader. And she wrote a six-paragraph essay on why kindness is important. And in today's world where we're seeing horrific things happen across our world, we need more kindness. We need more compassion. We need more teachings around, you know, citizenship, and in this case, kindness. She writes her last paragraph, and this really, I read this the other day and I was like, okay, I just have to find a way to share this with others. This is why, and this is her summary paragraph. It says, this is why kindness is one of the most important things in the world. The less people show kindness, the more hatred will spread. That is something that could ruin the world as we see it. The more kindness we spread, the less hatred will be surrounding the world. And then it states, this is why we all need more kindness on earth. Sometimes it takes only one act of kindness to change a person's life. And that's a quote by Jackie Chan. So this just kind of brings it like full circle. You're watching the news, I'm watching the news. Like, we have a responsibility to help our next generation to have the, you know, not only the social emotional skills, but the ability to be empathetic towards others. And we have programs at the high school, we have programs at both high schools, all of our high schools, that, you know, focus in on that. I think where we're getting the rub is, you know, we're doing something more global, a K-12, and that's a change, and change is hard, especially right now. So understand, but the dots are starting to all connect for me, and I appreciate all of the feedback that everybody is sharing. So a couple other updates, the MOUs, and you know, we were in the MOU world having lots of conversations with our associations. We have closed all the MOUs now, so they're all done, knock on wood, we're finished. So congratulations and good job to the team.
Hallelujah.
Good job, team.
Absolutely.
Then I want to spend most of my time speaking about the March 21st date. So the governor, as you know, will be removing the mask mandate on March 21st. And he is relinquishing his authority, which was pre his emergency powers, which the local health officials have always retained that jurisdiction to make regional or local county region decisions around health and safety. So Dr. Berry has concurred with the mask optional for our county from March 21st. I want to build confidence with that because Dr. Berry has made it very clear. She felt like if it would have been too soon, she would have said, no, we're not going to remove mask in our county until the time is right. She concurs March 21st based on the projections, based on the data, based on what we're seeing in our county, that mask will become optional for the county and schools on March 21st. So tomorrow, I will be sending communication to school staff as well as parents around that very piece. We are going to transition in our county and in our schools to a mask optional guidance on March 21st. That's going to make some people really happy, and that's going to make some people very nervous. I liken it to when we started this work, if you remember back in the fall of 2020, and nobody was going to school. The fall of 2020, nobody. We were one of the first school systems to actually break that and start to open up our schools. We started with SPED mid-September, and then we brought back kindergartners on October 5th. I already told that story. But I liken it to that, where we weren't sure. With COVID being new, we were going to use physical distancing. We were going to do an AB model, hybrid model. We were going to wear masks. We were going to change protocols in our schools. We were going to eat outside. All of the stuff, right? There were lots of questions during the fall of 2020. Can we actually do this? Can we take an invisible virus and keep it from transmitting in our schools? And, we all put on a very straight face and said, yes, we can, but we didn't know. Facts of the matter are, we did it, and we did it very well. We had, pre-Omicron, we had less than a 1 to 2% transmission rate within our schools, which is fascinating. Like how you can take that many bodies, 900 at the high school, 400 at an elementary school, and have a 1 to 2% transmission rate in our schools. Fascinating. And we did it, and we did it well. And why we did it so well is we have stayed loyal to our mitigation strategies. And our staff, from top to bottom, and our students, from top to bottom, have done a phenomenal job. So there were a lot of uncertainty in the fall of 2020. Could we actually make this work? We've made it work, and this year, quite frankly, through crazy transmission rates in our community, we have stayed in school every day. We have not closed for COVID. And so, that being said, when we're starting to exit now, and that's what we're doing, we're going from a pandemic to an endemic, and we're starting the exit strategy around how do we ramp down from the COVID measures. So when there's fear, when there's anxiety, when there's that we can't do this, we can. We can. And we have the support. I'm not going to get involved in the politics of whatever the governor's saying or doing, whether I agree or disagree. From the get-go, this board, this superintendent, this administrative team, this community has put all of our eggs in one basket. That's been Dr. Berry. She has not guided us she has guided us in a tremendous direction. We have followed her guidance. We've waded through all the CDC, WHO, Department of Health. She has been our go-to. And when she says that, our schools and our community is ready for a mask optional and we can make that work, I believe her. And we can do it. So what we're going to do is, masks will become optional on March 21st. Okay? And, but there are some things that, on March 7th, the Department of Health is going to, at the State Department of Health is going to promote, or not promote, they're going to release new updated guidance. And I don't know what to expect from that. I think I expect to see physical distancing going away. I think I see like the cleaning protocols going away. I think I see, you know, other things that we've been doing now for almost 2 years go away. You know, we're not going to do that. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to drop the mask mandate and go to a mask optional. But we're going to continue to, you know, pay attention to the things that we know work, even though it comes at a greater cost. Ventilation, even though when you're sitting at the high school or you're sitting in one of our schools and that radiator is just going all day and it just buzzes, and I believe me, I've been in it, it's hard to hear, and I apologize, I wish it was better, but one day we're going to have a new high school, just not yet.
I do have to say the rooms are a little less stinky.
Say it again?
The rooms are a little less stinky with them going all the
Okay,
time.
good.
Oh,
So
that's
there is
good.
a positive.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is a minor inconvenience, but it's created safe environments for our kids and for our staff. So we're going to maintain that commitment. You know, we're going to keep our vents open 100%. You know, so the average is about every 8 to 10 minutes that room totally refreshes. Okay, even an old room built in the 1950s. They're built differently. Schools are built differently. So ventilation, we can completely replenish a room's air 100% in a matter of 8 to 12 minutes, depending upon the room. And so we're going to maintain that focus, even though it comes at a higher cost, even though it might be a little bit irritating to listen to that radiator go all day long. We're going to maintain that commitment. We're going to maintain the commitment to physical distancing. You know, it doesn't mean that there might not be some opportunities within a class where maybe there's a little less than 3 feet, but what it does mean is we're not going to transition to have a high school come together and have an assembly in the gym with 900 kids. I mean, we're not there yet, okay? So we want to be very intentional on what we're doing here. We are going to remove the mask mandate, but we're going to maintain the ventilation. We're going to maintain the physical distancing within reason. We're going to maintain our cleaning cycles. We're going to maintain the fact, and this is the big one, and this is exactly what Dr. Berry will tell you if you speak to her. She treats people with COVID all the time. That's her job. You know, she's a doctor. And she has close proximity to people that are, you know, COVID positive. The quality of mask matters. And so if you have fear, anxiety, or, you know, somebody not having a mask around you, the quality of mask matters. Wear a surgical mask. Wear a KN95. If you wear those two masks, the level of protection that you get is very great. Okay? So quality of mask matters. And so what we will do with our staff and our students is, you know, encourage if there's some anxiety around, you know, people around me aren't wearing masks anymore. We have quality masks. We have more than enough surgical masks. We have, you know, KN95 masks. We're well stocked there. We want to help people through this transition, but this is an important step for us. Of course it's going to be fearful. Of course it's going to be scary. It's going to look very weird to walk into a classroom and not everybody's wearing a mask. I get that. But it's a necessary step, especially when Dr. Berry, the lead health agent of this county, is saying, I agree, now is the time. That's all I need to hear. I don't need to hear a politician say that. I need to hear my doctor say that. And when Dr. Berry says that, it's time for us to make that transition. So this county, this school system, will be transitioned on the 21st, but we're going to maintain our intentional practices around the other factors that we know have been a part in keeping the transmission down and low within our schools. So that communication will go out tomorrow.
I have one more question about this. And my understanding though is that the federal requirements are still if you're on a bus.
That is correct.
So is our communication going to call that out very
Yes.
clearly? Because that could be a part we could just
Yes.
Well, we don't have to, and then the bus,
Yes,
you have.
it is in our communication, that references, because it is it's a public transportation mandate, and our school buses are public transportation. The governor or the local health officer can't overrule that. So masks will still be required on our school buses, but I anticipate that could change. CDC is updating guidance, mask guidance, in the next day or so, and I think they're talking about that very piece. It would be nice if we were consistent between schools and buses, because that's going to be problematic. There's going to be a lot of confusion. How come I have to wear it on a bus and not in my classroom anymore? But again, the governor nor our doctor can override a federal mandate. So quite honestly, now it's our job to help our staff, our students, our community understand that now is the right time. We are following the science. It's not political. This is what our doctor's saying, and she has done everything right in this community to keep us safe. From a school perspective, I'm not talking the community. And so we lean on her for that, and as soon as she indicated it's go time, it's go time. So that will be communicated tomorrow, and anticipate lots of questions. But again, I think it's the more, and for me, like a guy, and I'm not a real emotional guy, like the mask doesn't bother me. But quite frankly and honestly, there are a lot of people that are struggling with their own mental health because of this.
Yes.
Students and staff. And it's not every student, it's not every staff. But we need to become healthy again.
Right, but we also have to recognize that the opposite is also true. There are people for whom now their mental health is going to start suffering because this isn't there anymore. So, I mean, we have to make sure that everyone is cognizant that people's comfort levels are different, and we can't have 5-year-olds picking on another 5-year-old saying, "Oh, well, are you afraid?"
No.
That's going to be another level of this.
Yeah, and we're just going to have to stay on top of that. There will be no bullying, intimidation, harassment. It's now optional, and students and staff can choose what makes them feel better. And
Nobody pick on me.
again, all the mitigation strategies that we will keep in place, to include wearing a high-quality mask, will keep you safe. Will keep you safe in our schools. So, but I get it, Sarah. There will be a certain percentage. I'm going to guess that 10 to 20% are going to really have a problem with the removal of the mask. But I liken it to the beginning. If you remember the very beginning, man, it was tough.
And we may lose some students on the flip side.
Yep. Just as we did when we went to masks to begin with.
Exactly.
So, the only thing we can do is encourage them to consider, CVU Academy. If that's.
Or if you feel comfortable, keep wearing your mask. You're welcome to keep wearing your mask. Let's be really clear.
This county will look very different on March 21st. I'm gonna guess that, you're gonna see at least 60 to 70% walking around without a mask. That would be my best guess. And that would be both in and out of schools. So, it's time. We think about it, 2.5 years ago, we were yearning for this day. So, let's work through the challenges and the struggles, and get our lives back on what could be, I guess, a new normal. I don't know what it is, but
On the flip side of that, if something new happens, we go with Dr. Berry.
Dr. Berry I have made it crystal clear that no one on this board, and myself included, have the medical training and the medical know-how to be able to navigate a pandemic.
No.
So if Dr. Berry, and it could happen.
Yeah.
We could have an outbreak in a classroom, and Dr. Berry could order that class to now wear masks. You know, we could have a spike next fall, and Dr. Berry could order, we're going back to mask. She retains that jurisdiction, and me, and this board, I hope, we understand that, and, you know, we should continue. She's served us well. We should continue to follow our health officer's guidance.
Agreed. She did say it's basically gonna go away in April.
Yeah.
She said I mean, Trump said that from the very beginning, didn't he?
Oh, my.
It's just gonna go away in April.
That was a few Aprils.
I don't think he meant this April. But you know, if you're watching the track, you know, if you're watching the community transmission within our community, the county site, our numbers are dropping fast. We were
run out of people to get.
about 623 cases per 100,000, and
200
you know,
less than
a couple
yesterday.
weeks ago we were at 2,400.
Yeah.
So our numbers are dropping. Dr. Berry does indicate that mid to late March, it may even look like we don't even have COVID around anymore.
Wow, what a blessing.
Now, it'll still be in our community, so I don't want to get us,
Yeah.
I mean, it's never going away. That's the
Omicron
thing.
BA is on its way, so.
That's the thing that we have to help people understand, like, this virus is not going away.
Right.
And so, at some point in time, we have to turn a corner, and we have to get back to something that looks more normal. And just learn to deal with and tolerate the virus in our community, and do things that we know, if you want to remain at a higher level of safety, get your vaccination, get your booster, wear a mask, you know, pay attention to physical distancing. If you do those things, you will be safe. So we are entering a new phase that is just around tolerance and acceptance, which is, you know, is needed in a pandemic.
We have to be kind.
Yep.
Kind to each other.
Cool. So I've spent enough time talking. Any questions you have for me?
Luke?
I just wanted to say what you said about, you know, following what Dr. Berry said, and following the medical practices versus the politicians. I think that whole message is super, super important that we, our principals and everything put out to our students. And I think, you know, when I came in here, one of my things was improving communication between administration and students, and I think it's really, really important that that message follows all the way through to students, because I think it'll help, especially that, you know, it's mask optional, not we're all getting rid of masks. It's going to help, you know, the students that are scared of it, and it's going to help the students that never wanted it to begin with all feel more comfortable overall.
Okay, great.
Our next meeting will be March the 10th.
Luke, I want to talk to you afterwards on that, okay? So March 10th, Thursday, March 10th, we will have at 5:30 the budget development work session, which is the beginning stages of developing our budget. It takes several months for official adoption in August. Our regular meeting will be at 7 p.m. in room 208 right here at the Lincoln Center. We will have teaching and learning report that'll focus on our SEL work. We will have fall and winter data report in ELA first, and then the next meeting will focus on math. Technology report, communications coordinator report. Yep. AmeriCorps week is March 13th through the 19th. So we'll recognize that. School Retirees Appreciation Week is the 14th through the 18th of March, and so we will recognize that. And it's Classified Employee Week, March 14th through the 18th. So that's a really big week for us, and so we'll recognize all three of those groups.
Anything for the good of the order? This meeting is adjourned.
Wow, that was quick.
He's on out of here.
Yeah, quick.
Carmen, I'm just gonna,